Hey, let's talk about the great Tiger Flowers. What's going on, folks? Another edition of Boxing History Every Night. It truly has become a nightly thing. Now, hey, I have to commend it to individuals who are able to do something every night on schedule. It takes some discipline, some preparation. Now, as it relates to this video, as well as some of the others, a little bit of the preparation that I have is simply the fact that there have been some videos done on these individuals and on this particular channel, of course, like the subject of the video, Tiger Flowers. There is a video of Tiger Flowers on this channel. When you factor in the shorts, at least more than one. Also, photo animation, deep fake animation, that is on there as well. So, excuse me. Basically, that makes it a little bit easier. So the videos that were completed on the animation or animated video that was completed on Tiger Flowers, of course, it has a script, or it had a script that was tied to it. And therefore, I can pull up that script and go through it in some sense, recall some things, the details of some fights just off top. Not everything, but that being said, that's where my fellow colleagues fill in, and they are appreciated. So salute to Flack Boxing, who is in the building. Flack, can't say it enough. You are appreciated, my friend. Appreciate you being here, joining in the conversation. History is always something great to dabble in as far as boxing. I know we have a lot of the modern stuff going on, but certainly it's always great to dabble in history, as we know that boxing has one of the deepest, as I've mentioned before. Again, salute to Rodolfo Rivera Jr. here early today. So salute to you, Rodolfo. Of course, we're always chatting. You appreciate it, Rodolfo, without a doubt. We've been talking about some things. A pretty impressive project that should be coming about here very soon. Well, soon might be pushing it forward a bit, but that being said, at some point, a pretty nice project in the works. Hopefully it goes down as anticipated, but gonna start that thing, Rodolfo. Appreciate you, buddy, sparking that motivation and innovation in some sense. Facebook user, didn't Tiger end up going blind? Cheers, Facebook user. As far as him going blind, I don't recall if that was the case, actually. Good question right there. Someone may know. The likes of Scrapbook Boxing, who is in the building, says, how are you, 86? I'm great, Scrapbook Boxing. Everyone give Scrapbook Boxing a follow if you want to know about the history of the sport. Now, I talk about the history of the sport, but certainly there's nothing like a Scrapbook Boxing out there who may be the foremost expert on the history of the sport and has accounts and details that tie back to these actual individuals who he's had conversations with. Now, of course, Tiger Flowers isn't one of those because he died at an early age, and that was due to a procedure being done, eerie similar to that of Harry Greb, one of his rivals, though not a rival in the sense of there was some beef or animosity towards each other. No, just more so a rival in general. Facebook users, this is Alden, by the way. Salute, Alden. What's going on, buddy? Good stuff there. Alden Chodash, chief of officials for Virginia, fellow official there, and writer, podcaster for The Fight City, thefightcity.com. I mentioned that in a previous episode. Can't remember which one. Maybe the Chowinski version. I mentioned that I know they had an article. Alden himself has a number of articles that are out there on The Fight City. So certainly check out Alden holding it down. Gonna have to get you on here, buddy, for a discussion, just an in-depth discussion. I'll need you for about an hour, at least an hour, Alden. I know time is imperative. Busy man there, especially holding down the amateur boxing scene But I need an hour, Alden, an hour. I need an hour because we need to go in depth on a number of different things, modern and historic. So I'll be in touch without a doubt. But cheers. Scrapbook sends his regards. Scrapbook says yes in the left eye, 50%. So hey, there you go. There you go there, Alden. So yeah, he did go blind in the left eye, at least half blind in that left eye, which was, I guess you can say, not uncommon during that era, especially those guys who had a ton of fights. And of course, we know Harry or Tiger Flowers was one of those guys. Yeah, when you start to have that type of or that amount of fights and that type of wear and tear, especially fighting some of the best that the sport has seen, the likes of Kid Norfolk, Sam Langford, Harry Greb, etc., then surely you can run into some issues. Panama Joe Gans, some of these guys we're going to dive into. You can surely run into issues or you fight competition of that nature without a doubt. So thank you there, Scrap. Rodolfo says, salute to Scrap, the man himself. The man himself, indeed. Appreciate you being here, Scrapbook Boxing. Without a doubt, Alden as well. Alden, complication with his eye following surgery, according to Wiki. Good to go. Yeah. So I guess that's what he was getting worked on. I wasn't sure if he was getting some type of nose or sinus-related surgery or whatever it may have been. Oh, but you know what? I have it here in my notes, or at least the original script I did for the video that is on the channel, and it does say he was getting scar tissue removed from his eye. So, yeah, that is how he died, unfortunately, at the age of 32. And I would say an eerie similar to Harry Greb, who was getting his nose worked on, amongst maybe some other things, and the anesthesia, never woke up from it. It was a 50-50 proposition back then. It's still very dangerous to this day, but certainly back then definitely was no joke. And you think about these guys, they were getting that work done because of the amount of fights that they participated in. It was a great deal. So not only that, but you think about the fact that in addition to their official fights, there were those fights that we probably will never know of because they weren't recorded, probably done in some seedy places, some back alleys, some back rooms, etc. Because, hey, you had to make your money back then. And that meant sometimes you had to take it in other options, you know. And, hey, if it came by virtue of you fighting in some unsanctioned fight, then, hey, it would happen. It would happen. Same is the case with Tiger Flowers, just as it was with a number of the other fighters that were tied to those eras back there. Back in the day, very much different, very rough. And, hey, you know, hopefully the fighters of today, the modern guys, can appreciate what some of those fighters went through back in the day or what they did in order to get money. And, you know, it's homage. Homage is what I call it. I like to pay homage, and I think it's a good thing when boxers do. I don't like when boxers of modern times essentially try to crap on some of the boxers of the past, seemingly thinking they're making some form of a statement, but they're not really making a statement. They're just disrespecting the history in some sense, disrespecting the history. And I'll say it once, I'll say it again, as I've said it before, all wins and losses are not created equal. All wins and losses are not created equal. Kylo Ren Baz, salute. Baz, aka Slaven. Slaven is in the building. Mr. A.Y. Slaven Yanovich, aka Kylo Ren Baz, in the building. He says, a friend of mine posted a comment. How can you talk about a man you never seen fight? Joshua, I'll leave it to you to answer. Well, I don't find it too hard to talk about a man I never seen fight. You know, I haven't seen every fight from every boxer, as I'm sure that someone who is reviewing modern things as well as history can attest to. As a matter of fact, Boxing starts local unless you are some decorated amateur. In some cases, not all cases, but usually the most decorated amateurs, they'll sometimes have some early fights that are televised. They'll be on the undercard or prelims or something of that nature. But that being said, the way I look at it, and I think that individuals like Scrapbook Boxing, heck, Flack Boxing, Dan, Hardline Boxing Talk, Random Acoustic Thoughts, etc., so many out there that do the thing, talk about the sports in the sport and the sports history. The way I look at it, it's no different than if I were to have never seen, let's say, for instance, Terrence Crawford. I'll use a modern guy, Terrence Crawford. If I had never seen him fight and I needed to somehow get a sense of, hey, what is this guy like? How good is this guy? Then I would literally just look at the accounts of what's been documented, even if I haven't seen him. I'm sure there are articles that account for his style, the fights that he participated in, the fighters he was going up against, especially those that were ranked, those that may have been champions, etc. And much like, for instance, Harry Greb, we have tons of video on, well, I won't say tons, but we have a lot of video on a number of the fighters that he faced. So I think the separation comes in seeing and trying to understand visually the style of a fighter versus what they actually accomplish. So I can talk about a Harry Greb or Terrence Crawford for that instance if he didn't have any video that I had available or could see, because I could account for what he did. I could account for who he was in the ring with. I can account for what they looked like visually or stylistically. And if they tell me Greb was someone who threw punches from all angle, got the nickname Pittsburgh Windmill, fought at a fast pace, jumped in and out, I mean, I don't need to see him to at least visualize such. The way I see it also, and I've said this before in some capacity, I know I said it on the video of Random, I'm of the mindset that I don't think there's any style in boxing right now that hasn't ever been seen over the course of history. Now, I don't have to have video footage to say that's the case, but that being said, we talk about the evolution of boxing and such. I don't think there's any style that will pop up now, tomorrow, or 50 years from now that hasn't been seen in some capacity in the sport of boxing. I mean, there's only so many evolutions to fighting, you know what I'm saying? Especially when we're talking boxing. This is not jiu-jitsu or anything and trying to come up with any new submissions, but I'd imagine there are only so many that you can come across in that field as well. But that being said, this is boxing. We have a deep history of boxing, even dating back to the bare knuckles. We've had a crazy amount of accounts of boxing and what has taken place in the history of the sport. So I don't think there's any style, and I repeat, that hasn't been seen. And I don't need to see every fighter to know this. For every Pernell Whitaker, Floyd Mayweather fighters with excellent reflexes, I guess you can say, and the ability to move in and out, you have a Charlie Burley, for instance. I mean, we only have a limited amount of video of him, a limited amount from one fight, but it doesn't take much to see that he's very much every bit as elusive, every bit as evasive with his tactics in a scientific manner as anyone we've seen today or who is fighting today. And you can just take this back to even guys that there isn't footage of. For instance, Tommy Ryan just recently did a video on him, at least in the last month. You can get the accounts of how he operated in the ring. So you don't need video to talk about a person. We have plenty of detailed accounts. And in most cases, the accounts back then that were via newspaper are even better than the articles you see today. You get round by rounds, et cetera, et cetera. So the information is out there that will allow for you to be able to envision what it's like to talk about a boxer for which you don't have any footage of. Now, whether or not stylistically they fit your repertoire, that's a different question. That's only something that you can call or judgment that you can make. So if that's what you want, if that's what you need individually and personally to understand whether a fighter was good, great, or other, then that's your own personal thing. But I think we have enough boxing history and those that have covered it over the years to attest to that, the fact that you don't need footage. If we didn't have footage of Jack Dempsey, then I think we could explain in some sense what the Dempsey role is and what that process was like as he went through the process of applying his offense, for instance. We don't have much footage of Sam Langford. If we didn't, and you looked at the accounts of what it was like to be in there with him and how he operated, and then some footage miraculously popped up, then you will get it. I think that if we get some, and I do hope we do get this, I do hope this happens, if we get some type of Harry Greb footage at some point that pops up miraculously out of in somebody's basement or whatever, his style may not be pretty, similar to a modern fighter like Emmanuel Navarrete, for instance, who is a world champion in this four-belt era, who does all of the things wrong as far as how you would want to throw punches, where you would want to throw them from, and the angles and all of that stuff. Just picture Harry Greb being 10 times that, because he has, in my opinion, the best resume in boxing history. So just think about that. Someone doing things wrong. We see that all the time. Deontay Wilder, not known to be much of a boxer. I'd imagine if we had no footage of Deontay Wilder and he was a fighter from the 1910s or 20s, and all you had to read about him were accounts of what he did, you'd be saying the same thing that those that downplay or try and disregard the fighters of the past, they'd be saying the same thing about Deontay Wilder and saying, oh, yeah, he couldn't fight or whatever. How can we judge how good this guy was when he doesn't have any footage or whatever? And in the footage that we do have, we can see from a boxing perspective, it's not very pretty. It's not like he's technically on that skill level of a Joe Louis or anything of that nature. He's just someone who can throw a pretty solid right hand. And I'm not saying he's the best heavyweight or anything. I'm just using him as an example of because of the fact that he's someone who is rated as one of the top heavyweights in the world. And from a boxing perspective, stylistically, not much to write home about, in all honesty. So he just has a right hand. So I think that's something. I see Flack Boxing says, I seen one use that argument on Joe Gans, even though he had footage. Yeah, it's crazy. Look at what Joe Gans was able to do. Look at his knockout over Kid Herman. We were talking about that, Flack Boxing. You'll see that punch was set up so beautifully. One of the best knockouts you'll see in the history of the sport. And the way he set it up shows you that, hey, he's a level above some of the modern lightweights that you might view as being superior. Joe Gans, part of the 100 knockout club. I believe he had 101 knockouts. Might have to double check that, but I believe it's 101 knockouts that he had, or at least 100 for sure, but I believe it's 101. So think about that. Joe is legit, without a doubt. Real quick, Beagle. Oh, Beagle sent a Super sticker, Beagle 47 or super sticker. Hey, appreciate you, Beagle. Salute, salute. I need to get some bells and whistles to make some type of noise or whatever. We'll do that at some point, Beagle, but you are appreciated, buddy. And I see the little Beagle in the avatar as well. Beagle, appreciate it, my friend. Hey, appreciate you being here. Love talking the history of the sport. We're talking to great Tiger Flowers, or at least we're going to talk to great Tiger Flowers here shortly. But that being said, hey, a lot of good stuff that comes up as it relates to the history of the sport in itself. Yeah, I see everybody showing love. Everybody showing love. Appreciate you, Beagle. Dan says, Kapasa Flack. Salute to you there, Dan. Appreciate you being here, Dan, without a doubt. Love the comments and dialogue we get to interact with on the channel. So thank you, my friend, for being here. Kyler Revive says, just read the damn message. I got to it, Vaz. I got to it. And I spent a long time talking about that there, Vaz. I spent a long time. Oh, you hate Vaz now. Hey, it's going to be hard to get that out of the picture. There's so much stuff out there. The Boxing Chit podcast. It says Josh and Vaz. Can't erase that right now. Can't erase it, Vaz. Oh, yeah. Good stuff, though. Good stuff. Reed was my name when I started out, but some guys didn't recognize me. Hey, Vaz. Hey, you have one of those. It's like a one-word type name situation. Let's keep this thing going, Vaz. It could be one of those things. When they say Vaz, hey, we know who Vaz is. Hey, yeah, I know Vaz. Dan, any footage of George Washington, Napoleon, Hannibal 2,500 years ago? Right? That is right. We have some actual paintings, which were portraits, depictions of them. And we can take that because of the fact that, of course, there have been a lot of great painters in history. So I'm sure it's pretty close to spot on, if not 100%. Pretty close to spot on. You know, I was looking, I think I mentioned this yesterday, but I was looking at a video that was going over the presidents and all the ones in history. And now I forgot, but I was going to say that John Quincy Adams was the first president photographed, but I could be freaking wrong. I don't know. If anyone knows that, any history buff knows that, let me know. But I was thinking it was John Quincy Adams. But that being said, you're right. We don't need photos of them. We don't need photos of a lot of stuff. And hey, in the sport of boxing, you need video or the fighter wasn't good. You know, you see some of these youngsters who come into the sport with a pretty solid amateur record. Hey, but who knows? Were they really good, even though they won national championships and international championships? I know some guys out of this area, that's the status they're in. But hey, the program is different. I will attest to that. The program is different, but how do we know if they were actually good in the amateurs if we don't have any video of them? Sugar Ray Robinson was supposedly 85-0 in the amateurs, but we have no footage of him in the amateurs, as far as I know. So how good was he really? I mean, what did he look like in the amateurs? Was it the same Sugar Ray that we saw with fast footwork, fast hands, all that stuff? You never know. I don't know. We don't have any footage, so it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Kylo Ren Pittsburgh produced Greb and Khan. Anyone else? Man, Pittsburgh, I know it has some other guys. Those are two famous ones, of course, that I know of. I'm sure there's some other guys. I can't think of them off top for sure here, Boz. But, hey, that's a good point right there. Harry Greb, middleweight champion of the world. Billy Khan, light heavyweight champion of the world. Almost a heavyweight champion. I guess you can say almost in a particular sequence. Well, over the course of a fight, actually. A fight he was winning. Almost became heavyweight champion. Some would say got a little too anxious, a little too greedy for the KO, and boom, it was over. But I know there have been some others from Pittsburgh. I just can't think of them off top. I'm sure someone could mention them. Billy Khan, the Pittsburgh Kid. Not Spatafora, Paul Spatafora, one of those modern guys who we can account for and attest to in the sport for sure. Dan, as the great Flack said recently, the writers did a fantastic job of documenting these great fights. blow for blow in newspaper. I feel like I saw it without a doubt. Come on, people, have an imagination. Have an imagination. If you read a book, then I'm sure you're visualizing something. But hey, I guess if you've never seen it before, then maybe you can't visualize it. I don't know. If I was reading in a book, set in the 1930s or even the 1970s, we'll say 60s or 70s. If I was reading a book set in the 60s, 70s, and they were talking about a Cadillac was rolling down the street, blah, 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 in a suburban neighborhood, I can kind of visualize what that may look like, just thinking about what Cadillacs looked like back in the day, or any car, you name it, and just generally what cars look like as a whole during that period. I mean, have a little imagination, folks. A little imagination. It can take you a long way. Willie Pitt, he's Connecticut, right? Willie Pitt, but yeah, he was one who could bounce in or had great footwork, of course, defense. Hey, he could do a little something on the offensive side too when that time came. Salute to Boxing Beta's Fight Showcases. Yo, hey, great to have you in here, Boxing Beta. Appreciate you, buddy. Back again. We're talking history. We're going to be talking about the great Tiger Flowers. I know some might be saying, "Hey, get on with it. Get on with it." Hey, a lot of good comments and stuff come in. You know, we have to address that. We have to talk about it somewhat. So appreciate you, Boxing Betas. Everyone, check out Boxing Beta. Give them a subscription. Subscribe. Elizabeth Gilbert, keep it, son. Let's go, mother. Appreciate you being here. Oh, you're on YouTube. Okay. I appreciate you. Not on Facebook this time. You're on YouTube. Hey, be sure to subscribe if you haven't, but you probably already. You know what? I helped you set it up, so I did subscribe. But it's all good. Appreciate you. Call you a little bit later. Beagle, girl, late again. One cheap drink of me. Appreciate you, Beagle. Once again in the mix. Hey, random acoustic thoughts. Random Big Up 86. A salute to your random. What's going on, buddy? Let me see. Have you sent me a text? Oh, you do. You have sent me a text. Let me shoot you something. Maybe we can get our random in here for the mix. We're gonna get random acoustic thoughts in here for a little bit and just seeing it. Hey, these messages come in sometimes random and they get a little bit crazy. It gets a little bit crazy. But certainly you can be in the mix, buddy. I appreciate it. Now, I don't know if the same link works, but I'm guessing not. But that being said, I'm sending it to myself. We can get you in here. Random. We're talking about the great Tiger Flowers. Former world middleweight champion, I shall say. The first black world middleweight champion. And that title was won against Harry Greb. Now, of course, I think we could say that, yeah, there are varying opinions on the fights. As a matter of fact, they fought more than once. But that being said, two great fighters with pretty amazing careers, especially when you look at who they went up against. I mean, some of the best resumes in the sport, without a doubt. So salute to that. Random. But everyone, yeah, go subscribe to Random Acoustic Thoughts. You want to learn about the history as well, especially thinking about guys like Sam Langford, Joe Jeanette, Sam McVeigh, Jack Johnson. I mean, doesn't get no better, or doesn't get any better. Just thinking about some of the heavyweights during that period, who were some of the greats. You know, those guys, especially as it relates to Langford, McVeigh, and Jeanette, fought series of fights against each other. Tough matchups. Crazy matchups at times. Even the best fight ever, or the greatest fight ever by many accounts, being McVeigh versus Jeanette 3. In addition, he also discusses like Harry Wills, Rocky Marciano, other Bellator. Oh yeah, Bellator as well. Bellator MMA. So if you're into MMA, Bellator at least, Random covers it. as well as a number of countdowns on some of the great boxers in certain weight classes in history. So it's worthy of being checked out. So Random Acoustic Thoughts, folks, check them out. Kylo written by says, what's up? Again, Beagle. Salute to you, Beagle. Appreciate you, buddy. As always, love it when we get to dialogue in the comments as well. More to come, for sure. More to come. Beagle, Miss Gilbert. Salute to you. Salute to you, Kylo written by. Flack Boxing said, I wish I could have seen a prime Tiger Flowers fight volume with volume against a prime Greb. I'd imagine these fights probably would have broke punch records if they counted punch stats back then. Certainly, it would have been very interesting. Interesting to see how the styles matched up. Without a doubt there, Flack Boxing. Man, you know, when I think about those Greb videos, or at least Greb fights and fights I wish we had videos of, you know, I have the Flowers in the Flowers fights in that list. First one and the second one, actually. But that being said, I do have them on that list without a doubt. Then I think about Greb, Mickey Walker. I feel like gotta have that one. Greb versus Tenney, especially that first fight, gotta have it. You know, and just thinking about some other ones that could be very interesting. It'd be interesting to see how Michael Dowd and Harry Greb went down. I believe it was, O'Dowd, who he fought, and O'Dowd wouldn't give him a rematch. I guess he was a handful without a doubt. But you make a great point there, Flack Boxing. That would be cool. Salute Rodolfo Bagel with the $10. Appreciate your Bagel. Appreciate your Bagel without a doubt. But check it out. We're talking about the great Tiger Flowers, Theodore Tiger Flowers. You know, I'm gonna have to bring in my buddy Random Acoustic Thoughts to help me on this one, so we can have a quick discussion, because I know he knows about these guys who were putting in that work back in the day. Of course, I said he follows the history as well. Real quick, Theodore Tiger Flowers, born August 5th, 1895 in Camilla, Georgia. So, Georgia, they call him the Georgia Deacon. Anyway, Random Acoustic Thoughts, what's going on with you, buddy? Appreciate you being here.
Yo, what's up, Josh City? How you doing, brother?
Hey, all is good. All is good. Here we have a video on the great Tiger Flowers, or more so a discussion, of course. I always like having the discussion. And one of the great fighters in history, one of the great defensive fighters as well, just thinking about it, had a pretty impressive resume, fought a ton of top-tier guys. You just think about it, a man who fought both Greb and Langford, that says something right there. So he was a guy who was willing to trade with anyone in boxing who would give him a shot for the most part.
Yeah, I've seen an article on Flowers. It was saying he had to, like Gans and Walcott and Sam Langford, he had to sometimes look above his weight for opportunity, because he was maybe perhaps too good to get like the opportunity some other fighters would get. We see that especially like Langford's career. It's crazy. All the guys that he beat that got title shots or eliminators, or that got opportunity, but he was too good. So he'd get the good fight, then he'd do too well, and then people be like, I don't know, maybe someone else is a better match. But I wanted to jump on real quick and just mention, we don't have footage. I can't remember who's the name. I think it was Dan or one of the posters earlier made a great point. We don't have footage of Napoleon, Alexander the Great, Paris, like the great generals, the great of history. But like, I feel like because sports and martial arts, they're not as important as military history. So people go, I need the eye test, and they won't go by the written word or by the limited footage we do have. It's like, okay, we've got no Harry Greb footage, but some of his opponents have footage. So we know that Gene Tunney can box. So Greb thrashing him, you don't need to see that fight. If you read the written word and you understand and you look with your own eyes that Gene Tunney really knew how to box, then Greb beating him, you can give him full credit. Just like, we can't go watch Napoleon cite the cannons personally and stuff like this to, like, at times like his genius, but we can read about it and appreciate it. And you don't see people walk around and be like, well, Schwarzkopf is a way better general than Napoleon because I saw a video of his tanks. Like, no, we don't do that with important things. So I think sports and martial arts suffer a little bit sometimes, where people can be more whimsical or just deny like logical thinking because it's ultimately not important, without trying to sound like I'm dissing it. But you know what I mean? Like I feel like when the stakes are higher, people take historical inquiry a lot more seriously.
Hey, great points right there, Random. Very much great points. And I think that very much explains why it makes sense to be able to understand and comprehend what the accounts and the details of these fights and fighters, what they represent. But of course, you will always have some naysayers because there are individuals out there who are just going to be naysayers. You could have a video of a reunion of a puppy with their mother or something like that. It's going to have some dislikes, some thumbs down, things of that nature. You name it. There's just going to be naysayers out there.
It's just the contrarian nature of social media, where some people, they're just oppositional. They're like, oh, that's your stance. Well, I can attack that. Again, I think it's relative to how important it is. There are people who are so cavalier in important situations, but generally people, you can see it without mentioning anything political specifically, but you can see the difference between what people say and what they'll say under oath. It's kind of like that. When the chips are down, like a lot of people know how to act right. But with sports, there's a lot of egos. People attach their egos to their favorite stories, favorite fighters, but also the stories with them. But it's just, it's just how it goes. I just love delving into the distant past. These guys, it's almost not in spite of, but especially because there isn't a lot of footage. There isn't a lot of celebration of the great things they did as martial artists and professional fighters, and sportsmen. Especially, Josh, like back in the day, the top boxers were the top sportsmen.
Oh, yes.
In the world. Like they were Jeffries, Jeff, when he was the man, he was literally the top guy. But Sullivan, like these guys were Fitz, these guys were serious sportsmen. Today, fighters don't really take that. I mean, Canelo maybe comes close, but fighters don't really hold that place as like where people go, we're looking to you to uphold sports, not just your slice of sports. There's a lot more accountability in other leagues than in the fight game. You know what I mean? You see NBA players punching each other at a press conference, they would take it a lot more seriously. I mean, they take not wearing a suit more seriously than fighters like having a little bit of a side fight before it's time to do it. So it's just the standards are different when it's the internet has united sports fans, right? The broadcast is united around the world, but it's still a niche sport. Fighting is still a sideshow, and you can see it in the accountability that it's held to compared to major sports. That's not to diss it. It's just how it is, man. We see so much corruption. Same thing in mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts is even worse structurally. Get that. You might not believe it, folks, but boxing is less corrupt structurally than mixed martial arts. No joke.
Yeah, without a doubt. I know we've had several conversations on that. Certainly, it's crazy business at time. Real quick there. Salute to Poland Ball 69 in the building, aka Fight Fan. Hey, if you want to hop on Fight Fan, be sure to let me know, buddy. We can get you in the mix without a doubt. That being said, Poland Ball 69 says Tiger Flowers was greatly skilled but had a shaky chin. That being said, if you didn't have the power to knock him out, Flowers would most likely excel, without a doubt. That is true. He took more than a couple of L's, via knockout. Certainly, that's what got him with Sam Langford. I know Sam Langford did knock him out. There were some others as well. We'll have to look through for me to be able to remember some of the others who did, but certainly that was one of the things. He didn't duck or dodge any of the big punchers or the guys who some would avoid. And if you fight long enough against high enough competition, you tend to suffer defeat at some point. That's the way it typically goes, for sure. Now, you can skirt your way around certain fights and things of that nature. We've seen guys do that. But, yeah, if you fight at a high enough level against a high level of competition, you eventually may take an L, without a doubt.
Yeah, especially if you don't have the luxury to like pick your style matchups. You know, because there are great fighters who have great resumes. Mayweather's a good example. You cannot seriously say he took on all comers because of how few fights he had in the divisions he was at. So, in spite of a great career, great skill set, one of the greats, right? One of the best of the modern era, he wasn't in a position of flowers where you take the fights you're offered because you need that money. You can't sit around. You can't say, oh, I'll fight next year. So, if you look at the year-to-year record of a lot of these early era greats, they didn't have that luxury. So, even if they did more because they had to rather than they chose to, they still did more. So, if you're measuring sports, like, you know, like not everyone's like Jerry Rice, where he's already rich and he can play 20 seasons in the NFL and be the greatest at his position. But if he had been broke and done the same thing, I don't count it any less, man. You're just measuring what someone gets through. Look at the great Muhammad Ali. Yo, he took on everybody. Bad matchup, not fighting at home. Sam Langford too. You know, he wasn't picking and choosing. Oh, this guy's got 50 pounds on me and he's a power hitter. I'm not going to fight him. I'll fight a little guy. You know. So I think we should give a lot of credit to these guys, regardless of money. You know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there 100%. Yeah, hey, that's why I like. You know, there are so many interesting stories with these fighters from history, from the past. Just like there's some interesting stories behind some of these fighters from today, of course, as well. Yeah, a number of them go through adversity, all of that stuff. You know, fighting sport is pretty, or fighting in general, just thinking about it as a sport or making a living doing so, it can be niche in some sense. Not everybody's out there doing that. So, but certainly it's a appreciation for those guys dating way back that we have accounts of these stories, these accounts of their careers, fights, etc., have been able to pass over time. And I think, or I appreciate anyone out there at least highlighting that history, because it's pretty easy for history to get lost without a doubt. And boxing is one of the most documented sports. It has one of the deepest histories, if not the deepest history. But that being said, it's great to see some of these guys who, even with all of this stuff out there, all of these accounts, whether it's newspapers, etc., some of these guys are just getting their shine in some sense here within the last 20, 30 years. And technology has
Internet's
played a
helped.
big key part to that. And salute to anyone out there jumping in the midst of boxing history, without a doubt.
Yo, 86, can I shout out the boxing librarian real quick? Folks, if you don't already know, Hardline Boxing Talk, he just did a fantastic 2-part live stream on the great Tony Canzoneri, basically showing how much he had done by different ages he hit in his career, like his year to year. And when you see what that guy did by, like, say, 22, is absolutely stunning. And the year to year record, he was fighting legit seasons. A lot of these guys did, you know, so there is a context as well. Like, if you go 8-2 for a year, is that worse than someone who goes 1-0? I don't know. I mean, it would have to be a pretty epic 1-0 to beat out someone who had multiple credible wins in the season just because they lost other fights. I mean, try to keep that schedule. It's tough. Sam Langford's schedule, his 1916, Harry Greb's 1919, lots of Joe Gans years, as well as those guys, you know, Flowers himself. You know, these guys are really getting it on. It's hard to measure directly people who attempt. It's like, if I can use an NFL analogy again, like if you play 2 games a year and you do really well, are you Jerry Rice? No, you're not Jerry Rice.
Right.
Or if you play for 6 seasons and do pretty well, are you Jerry Rice? No, you're not Jerry Rice. Because look at his schedule. Look at his total career. And that's what, to me, the real titans, the real resume, gigantic, multiple hundreds of fights. It's hard to have 30 fights of any level, 40 fights and stack up. And you see these great fighters of the past who had longer careers than that. But if you look in all time, the overall resume, like the great Barney Ross.
Oh yeah.
Great career, great win-loss record, fantastic high-level experience. They're just bigger resumes, but you can't say he didn't fight some people or he's not great in his own right. It's just they're guys. When you got guys like Greb walking around with, you know, dozens of Hall of Fame wins, it's hard for anyone to stack up to that because Greb was out of his mind. He was completely Sam Langford. These guys were hard on a level that we just can't really imagine today. We don't have the kind of desperate life where your alternative is like not living very long and just working grueling hours for very little money. It's just different today. You know, you can just go get a generic job and do better than these guys could have done with manual labor back then.
Oh yeah, yeah, and salute to Hardline Boxing Talk, who you mentioned. Everyone, check out Hardline Boxing Talk without a doubt. And I learned a lot from that Canzoneri series he just dropped. And certainly, just thinking about the sheer amount of fights these guys had, especially against high-level competition, doing this in their teens and early in their 20s, where they were already fighting Hall of Fame level fighters, etc., on multiple occasions. That's why a lot of these guys, they ended up being pretty much past it by the time they hit 30, before they hit 30. You saw that with Greb. You saw that with Tiger Flowers, I guess you can say, slowed down a bit. And you see that with a lot of fighters, just because they put in such grueling work leading up to that point. They hit that sort of midpoint, or what would normally be the prime or whatever. And certainly they have some great years in there, but fighting at the pace and schedule, hundreds of fights, that can definitely take its toll. And as mentioned, some of these guys, they had more fights than what has been actually documented. And take, for instance, you just so happen to have random Acoustic Thoughts on, who was able to find a Sam Langford fight that took place that isn't listed on the BoxRec type sites or Cyber Boxing Zone, things of that nature, because it was an unrecorded fight, or at least it hadn't been found through the archives as of yet. And Random Acoustic Thoughts, who's been diving into the great Sam Langford, he was able to find such. So that was breaking, and that's a big piece of history right there. And one of the cool things about digging through the archives and looking at history.
Yeah, you also, it's like, okay, so myths are, by design, myths are far more relatable than the nuance of the truth. And so studying the history, you start to see behind the myth. You start to see like what was actually happening. Just like the way people, like the generic version of what the color line was, compared to if you look at the fight records of the athletes of that time, there were guys who drew the color line after a while. Like they were like, okay, I'm done with this. Now I'm drawing the line, even though they fought a who's who across racial lines beforehand. There are people, like, it's very, very complicated, but you won't see that from the way people relay myth. Or one of the ones I've encountered the most is where people say that Jack Johnson never ducked Sam Langford. Now, separate from that being the biggest story in sports, arguably, for Johnson's reign, they literally had a signed contract that was published in the paper. Johnson literally admitted to having a contract, but that it wasn't enough money anymore because he was the champ. Like, it's documented. It's there in print. It's available. I posted on Facebook. It's like, it's right there. But the myth, people they cling on to the myth because they don't want to think less of Johnson. Whereas if you study Johnson, he should get more credit for before he unified the colored title, arguably, than after he had unified the title, beating Tommy Burns. Because after Burns, he wasn't fighting the best guys.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But that's much more complicated to communicate in a very simple way. It's very complicated careers that were going on at this time. So I think that's partly the disconnect between like a casual, here's what I heard on the thing, and like an in-depth look. And I love that, like finding that fight. Langford fought at a bicycle club. They had they read poetry that night. They sang some songs. They listened to some music. They had freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling, and then 2 boxing bouts. It was like, you know, it was in the Revere Journal, and it was also in the Globe. But I'm wondering if the scan was such that either that page wasn't as clear in one of the websites I was using, but I have 2 archives I subscribed to that I pay for. Mm-hmm. It was in the other one, and then I found corroboration in the Revere Journal after that, a separate digital archive. So the stuff's out there. We don't know how much Langford fought because that wasn't an important fight he had, but did he go beat on some guy for 6 rounds? Yeah, he did. Or however long they fought. Like, they didn't even say what happened in the fight, so I assume no one got knocked out, or it wasn't advantageous to highlight the fact that someone got knocked out at that time in that town.
Yeah.
A lot of politics involved, you know, when boxing was struggling to be, like, I think coming into Langford's first full season in 1903, it was only like 24 states allowed boxing. Now, there was boxing in all the states. It was only officially allowed. So are you going to get people in trouble if you're a newspaper writer and you're catering to the betting crowd talking boxing? Are you going to get the people that you're actually doing that for in trouble by talking about fights that shouldn't have been happening? No, I mean, I've seen in newspaper, like in New York, they busted them. They were having fights in like a cloakroom. You know, they were like basically in the bathrooms. They got busted for putting on some fights. I mean, people love to bet on these fights. We see that today. So there's a lot more that happened than we know about.
Yeah, and it can vary from state to state. So many different rules. We still see that today. A lot of the rules are similar and pretty much the same in some states, but in most states, but there are still states out there that have different rule sets and different means in which they go about it. We still have it in the UK. Well, I would say, I guess over in London or just England in general, maybe some other areas there within the United Kingdom as a whole, I've seen on some of these like matchroom programs or BT Sports or whatever. For some of the fights, you just have a single official, the official in the ring, who is the judge of the fight. And that used to happen often here. So it still happens over there, but it varied certainly. And sort of like what I said at the top of the show in terms of all wins and losses aren't created equal. Certainly the case with the likes of a Tiger Flowers and many others, Greb and all of that stuff. Because as Flack Boxing points out, I wouldn't say he had a shaky chin. Langford, Norfolk, Panama Joe Gans, Jack Delaney, all great punchers. Certainly some great punchers you have listed in there point. Without a doubt. So that certainly factors in. Salute the buy says Delaney was a force, but he drank too much, such a shame. And then we had Boxing Beta said Floyd Mayweather versus Henry Armstrong. Interesting. That's a very interesting one. Of course, that level of experience just in real deal trenches in fights of that nature certainly would have to be on the side of Henry Armstrong. I rate Henry Armstrong as the greatest welterweight of all time.
Well, Hank fought such a tremendous wealth of styles. Like, would he be flummoxed by shoulder roll, by the Philly shell? I don't know. I mean, because his style is like pushing you off balance and using his forearms and things. I think that would actually translate really well to someone like Floyd, who likes to, maintain the distance he likes. Well, Hank never gave people that chance. When he was at his best, he was on you, and he was so low that it was going to be hard to. It was going to be hard to like punish him for getting close to you, and then it was on. He was just keep working. It's a tough fight, although Floyd's brilliant, but did he ever fight someone with that particular style of disruptive pressure? I'm not sure.
Well, he fought some guys who did have pressure, probably the toughest, I guess, or the closest in some eyes where some say he lost. Now, I have scored it, and we've scored it on the Fight Night Scores channel. Salute Fight Night Scores is going to be on there Sunday. But he fought like Jose Luis Castillo, and that first fight for sure. Some people thought that Floyd lost, and Castillo was one of those guys who fought with a lot of pressure. He was taking the fight to Floyd with a lot of punches, doing a lot of work on the inside, especially when things started to slow down a bit. But as mentioned, I've scored it a couple of times. I had Floyd winning. I just thought that some of his jab work wasn't being accounted for. And of course, that can vary with scoring. You never know. But that being said, that was someone who bothered him, even later in his career. Supposedly, Marcos Maidana bothered him somewhat, who was one of those guys who could be sloppy technically at times, but he applied a lot of pressure, throwing a lot of punches. So you have to think that, like Flack says, Homicide Hank could literally woke Floyd's life, respectfully, without a doubt, because Homicide Hank, he learned his trade just being in the trenches, as I mentioned. He put that head down, go in there, and just start to dig out. And he was in with some big-time punchers, and they weren't really able to do much with him as far as hitting him with the kitchen sink. He just continued to come forward. So
Yeah, he never
Homicide
presents an
Hank is
easy
one of those
target.
guys who had one of those chins. I would think he'd be able to take the best of what Floyd has to offer, given what he was able to do with some of these greats that he was in with, that we now, of course, know are some of the Hall of Fame greats in history.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, Homicide Hank, he's in the running for the greatest crouching fighter of all time. You think about it. Like
Certainly.
Joe Walcott, Hammer and Hank, there aren't too many guys where you could say the crouching style brought them more success. I mean, Hank, to me, is a top 4 fighter in the gloved era in history.
Oh yeah, yeah. Same
But
here.
it's resume, it's proven. It's how many asses he beat. It's not because of how great he looked, even though he looked great and it works. Like you see it's like with Joe Louis, you can see why it works. There's a reason that he's done his stance, the way his footwork is, the methodology behind it. So the same thing with Hank, you can see why it works. You can also see who it worked on. That run at welter, like, come on, man. There's a reason that even all these years later, Hammer and Hank Armstrong is, but for knowledgeable people, he's one of the top-notch guys that ever lived.
19 title defenses at welterweight, 19 title defenses. We have guys who win a belt, they're considered champions, they never defend them. So 19 title defenses, and this was on top of, during that period, of course, he was also in the mix fighting in other weight classes. So just a different breed back then. Pole and Ball real quick says that there is amateur footage of Robinson. Okay, good stuff, Pole and Ball. So there's some amateur footage out there of Robinson. There is some amateur footage. So that's good stuff, without a doubt. So I don't know if I've seen that. Maybe I have. Maybe I don't recall. But certainly that's good. So you know that there is some footage of him out there. Boxing Beta's fight showcases Sugar Ray had one punch knockout, which is good and bad. Which certainly, yeah. Some guys get in love with that power and things of that nature, and they can't handle it. But certainly, he was one of those who could mix it up very well, very skilled, and had pretty much thunder in both hands. In addition to his speed, footwork, etc. Certainly a model for one of the greatest fighters in history, and I know many regard Sugar Ray Robinson as the greatest. Love that poster. Takes me back to my younger days. That poster of I think in Random's profile right there, some Bellator MMA. But yeah, that being said,
Someone mentioned someone earlier. I meant to mention it when I got on. They were talking about Johnny in the Bellator middleweight. Now that's mixed martial arts middleweight. That's 185 pounds. That's Johnny Diamond Hands Eblin. Human cheat code, the Dream Crusher. He's a fantastic talent. And this fighter that's in my profile, this is Vadim Nemkov, who is the protege of Fedor Emelianenko, who I consider the greatest mixed rules fighter of all time. Nemkov actually went and trained with Johnny Eblin down at ATT in Florida, the top MMA gym in the world, to get some wrestling advice and training to add to his combat sambo acumen, where he's a world champ, and used it against Corey Anderson, who's a very powerful 205-pound, like wrestling-based fighter, and he stuffed, I think, 15 of 15 takedown attempts against Corey Anderson coming out of that camp with Johnny Eblin. Johnny Eblin, one of the pound-for-pound top fighters in mixed rules. He's a beast.
Oh yeah. I've only seen him fight once. I think he was the one that beat Gegard Mousasi, right?
That's right, he did. He's got a fight coming up against Fabian Edwards, who's the brother of Leon Edwards in the UFC. That's Team Renegade, one of the English gyms, one of the top English gyms, and so that's going to be a fun clash. I won't go into mixed rules, man. I'll be here all day. Even though I'm sick, I just did like a 2.5-hour show last night with Jay Wolf.
Oh yeah,
Santiago.
I didn't see that text until later in the evening when I had got home, when I was leaving from work, actually, that you sent me yesterday. That wasn't happening right there, Random. That wasn't happening.
It's all good. We have to gel it with everyone's schedules. Jay Wilson, Cali.
I'm gonna get on
anytime, bro.
I'm gonna get on one of those shows for sure. The next time, for sure. Let me know.
Yeah, we start at 2 a.m. because Jay Wilson, California, he's 3 hours behind, and Santiago's 6 hours ahead of me. So the only time we can all do it is 2 a.m. my time. But I work nights, so it worked out.
2 a.m. out there going live. Be sure to check out Random Acoustic Thoughts. Give him a subscribe for sure. He's out there putting out content at 2 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah, you got to come on the channel, Josh. We got to do some more boxing talks.
Oh yes, without a doubt. We're gonna definitely do that. I think it'll be a good thing. Check out Random. You'll see we've connected on a number of things already, including pretty deep series on Harry Wills, which was great. It amounted to about 5 videos, and then that coupled with Random. I know he has a playlist there. I did an animated video on him as well, so a lot of content on Harry Wills. We were speaking about him, I believe it was yesterday. Yeah, because we were doing the Tom Sharkey video, who was a heavyweight, but either yesterday or before that. But essentially, Harry Wills, one of the great heavyweights in boxing history, who doesn't quite always get that due shine and proper respect. Kind of got lost in history. Where we're talking about a lot of these guys, they're getting shine here and now over the last decade plus, things of that nature, with technology and us having more access to newspapers, footage that pops up here and there, all of that stuff. But Harry Wills, one of the great heavyweights in boxing history.
Yeah, and he gets looked overlooked partly for the same reason that like Jack Dempsey became the biggest star in sports in 1919. Well, that was what Wills was the main guy that Dempsey avoided, and Harry Greb was one of the others. So Harry Greb's 45-0, counting newspaper decisions in 1919, but that wasn't the biggest story of the year in boxing because heavyweight was alive. Because, without being insulting, Jess Willard, Jack Johnson, not so much Burns, he was busy, but the other guy, heavyweight hadn't really been on fire. And Dempsey, until he started then not being active, like he had fought a ton of fights. He got his opportunity, he smashed Willard, who'd barely been fighting. So that was the big story. So Harry Wills, like I was saying, the myth, it's much more convenient to be like Jack Dempsey knocked out the champ and he was this giant star, movie star, and then ignore the fact that he blatantly avoided the other best heavyweight, the colored champion of that era. It's too complicated to sum up. And so he gets overlooked. But with the internet, we can actually look at the resume and we go, well, wait a minute. Harry Wills was the guy who beat all the top guys who were being avoided by Johnson. Harry Wills took over as far as resume-wise, the best heavyweight in the world, although Dempsey deserves a lot of respect. But it's, Dempsey is the one famous, and he was also a great ambassador for boxing later in his life, so people don't want to diss the total of Dempsey, now he's passed away and everything. But as far as the sport at the time, he blatantly avoided Wills and Greb and some other guys. It's just how it was. It's just what it was. But you won't see that. You won't see that in like all of the documentaries. They won't highlight that fact because it takes away from the overall thrust of what they're celebrating. So the internet has allowed us to celebrate some of these other guys who don't get their full credit, maybe even never got a championship. Like, because Langford was the colored heavyweight champ 5 times, but there are guys, like, I don't think Jack Blackburn was colored or otherwise champ.
Yeah.
And he had a great career. So there are guys who got denied opportunity on both sides of the color line, even if they had a lot of tough fights. So it gets very complicated. And that nuance doesn't get through on some of these documentaries where they have to cover 100 years in 25 minutes. Yeah. You get bogged down in all the politics and stuff. You wouldn't do it today. If you had to describe heavyweight in the last 5 years, would you really get into all the negotiations and the broadcasting deals and the fake fight announcements and the fake retirements and all this stuff? No, you'd have to just sum up what happened. Same thing.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. We have some examples of that for modern times. See it playing out with Tyson Fury right now. Salute to Dan, who's coming through with some of these Pittsburgh fighters. How could I forget about the great Charlie Burley? Matter of fact, the 86 Boxing channel has a Charlie Burley video out there. Check it out if you haven't, folks. And matter of fact, one of my favorite videos. I even make an appearance in the middle of the video. Well, in the beginning of the video, whatever. But even though my lighting was bad and all that stuff, still one of my favorite videos because it points out the greatness of one Charlie Burley, who was just as skilled as any boxer to have ever laced him up. And a man, dare I say, that Sugar Ray Robinson himself seemingly did not jump at fighting. I mean, it could have happened, I'd imagine, but it didn't happen, much like the Dempsey Wills. Fritzy Zivic, we talked about him a couple of times. I haven't done anything on Fritzy. I've seen him in the mix there. He has a win or two over Charlie Burley, maybe a win, maybe a win, but it could be two. I can't remember fully. Then the great George Chip my man George Chip, one of the great middleweights of all time. Didn't have a huge career, but he made up for it by facing tough competition. And if I'm not mistaken, has a win over one of my favorite middleweights, the great Les Darcy of Australia, who died at 21, former Australian middleweight champion, and someone who would have been a huge threat to any middleweight in the world, whether that's Stanley Ketchel, etc., during that period, especially as he continued to mature. But he died at 21. As a matter of fact, I think he was 21. He turned 21, and he didn't get to have a fight at 21, if I'm not mistaken. But George Chip, great middleweight. He was in there with him, as well as some other greats during that period. Sammy Angot, the clutch Sammy Angot, got that nickname from the way he would hit and then essentially clinch, a la similar to Jack Johnson, except I guess in most cases Jack Johnson would clinch and then just clinch, maybe occasionally hit. But anyway, all these guys from Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh, very deep fighting town, and has some of the best boxers in history when you really line it up. Just think about Pennsylvania as a state. You take Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, man, it's hard to find a state with greater boxers in totality. There's some out there that have had some great ones, though, but just think about Pennsylvania. You take just Pittsburgh and Philadelphia alone. Those are some of the greatest boxers in history coming out of those two cities, which is pretty impressive.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you take Pennsylvania as a whole, and then if you add in people who were based at one time or another in some part of Pennsylvania, you put that as a whole, that's fighting state right there. And even counting like Philly and Pittsburgh are dramatically different ends of a very large piece of land. For those of you in Europe who aren't familiar, it's like Pittsburgh is legit industrial Midwest. Philly, East Coast city. So yeah, it's like a lot of different versions of tough people came up in that state. Sure. Oh
yes, without a doubt. So yeah, that's definitely one of the top ones. Of course, we know New York, Massachusetts. Massachusetts has been a place where some great boxers have come from, but also some others who have fought there. Of course, this was a big-time fight capital in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Far cry from what it is today, but you have the likes of John L. Sullivan from there, of course, Marvin Hagler, the Brockton blockbuster himself, Rocky Marciano. As a matter of fact, Marvin Hagler is from Brockton as well, which is pretty interesting, right? Two all-time great fighters from the city of Brockton. But then, others I'm sure that I'm not even knowing of, but we don't see or hear much about Boston boxing these days, unfortunately. And I know, Random, you're up there.
It's different than it used to be, but like at a time, the great Barbados Walcott was based here, wasn't from here. Sam Langford was based here. Old Chocolate, George Godfrey, another Canadian, was based here. George Byers, another Canadian, was based here. Big Sandy Ferguson, heavyweight contender, top 10-ish sort of fighter of that era. He was based here, or he was based close. He wasn't actually in the city of Boston. I mean,
Byers,
Boston Metro.
Byers, former colored world middleweight champion and world heavyweight champion, colored world heavyweight champion. He was really a middleweight, a lower than middleweight in most cases.
Yeah, the scene here was very strong in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This was one of the key markets, although at that time, the biggest money was in California. For fights. But there were a lot of serious fights on this coast, especially in the Boston area, in the Boston Metro, I should say. Yeah,
we were talking about San Francisco, the Bay Area. Salute Rodolfo repping out there. But yeah, they certainly had some top shelf boxers there in boxing events that took place in San Francisco, for instance, in or around there, just in general. During that period, you had, of course, Corbett there, world heavyweight champion Joe Chewinski. We were talking about Chewinski in one of the previous videos as well. So he's someone out of San Francisco, and they had a pretty solid amateur program from all accounts as well. So certainly a thriving city. Real quick, Boxing Beta. You saw the edit I made. I'm going to have to check that out, Boxing Beta. I haven't seen it. I'm going to go by there today for sure. I'm going to go by there, my man. Appreciate it. no doubt about it. I'm gonna definitely check it out. Poland Ball says Slattery would beat Jack Dempsey and Joe Louis. Hey, Slattery could box. Certainly. Certainly Jimmy Slattery. You know, I worked with the guy whose last name was Slattery, and I remember I saw a Hall of Fame thing come through some years back, and then I was asking him, "Hey, any connection there?" He didn't feel there was a connection, or he didn't think there was a connection. But Slattery seems like a pretty unique name. I'd imagine there weren't a bunch of Slatterys running around the country. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was a great fighter. Powerful fighter, you know, I don't know if he held the whole thing, but he definitely had a piece of the light heavyweight championship, which I think he unified with Maxie Rosenbloom.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, Maxie Rosenbloom. Talk about a fighter right there, well-traveled, which is the word. If you hear well-traveled fighter, we're talking about those guys who just were in and around and fought pretty much a who's who of their era, and it just so happens to turn into a who's who of boxing history. Maxie Rosenbloom, he was in there with, you know, you can just pick a guy, you can just throw a name out there, and in all likelihood, Maxie Rosenbloom was in there with him. Same with like Harry Greb, just throw a name out there who was in the era that he fought in. It's like taking a rock, you just throw it, and it will just hit a fighter who's in the Hall of Fame or something.
Right, it's easier to list the guys they didn't fight because they fought many people who counted. I mean, Rosenbloom has one of the toughest schedules in history. You know, it fought top guys from middleweight all the way up to heavyweight. And, you know, he was a light heavyweight champion, but like many light heavyweight champions, including his predecessor, the great Tommy Loughran, the Philly Phantom, he moved up. He wanted to, I think actually Rosenbloom was stripped for only fighting at heavyweight. He wasn't defending at light heavy, so he got stripped. But a lot of guys want to get up to the very top. They want to ascend the ranks to the real championship, the heavyweight championship. The original, like who's the actual baddest man if size is ignored, like who actually wins if everyone fights each other. So like Rosenbloom was like that, Loughran was like that. Else these guys might have had a lot more going on at the weight where they titled.
Oh yeah,
pursuing opportunity.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Tommy Loughran, another fighter that was in there with Harry Greb. So we have footage of Tommy Loughran out there, the Philly Phantom, one of the best boxers in the world. In the history, just period. One of those Philly fighters. You know, when they say a Philly fighter, they really mean it. Dan, salute to you. It says, thanks, Random. You're a boss. You scrap Hardline. We're honored indeed. Without a doubt. Appreciate the Random Acoustic Thoughts being here in the midst. For sure. Hey, Slider was mean, yes, but not big enough for Dempsey Lewis. Hey, make a good point there. By Scrapbook Boxing in the midst. Salute to your Scrapbook. Scrapbook says Harry Greb protected Tiger Flowers before, during, and after the fight until he was escorted on the train. Yes, good stuff right there, Scrapbook. That is the case.
That's right. A real sportsman. Didn't draw the color line and was, hey, what's up, Scrap? Great to see you, my friend. Thanks again for your ongoing series, which is so epic.
Yes.
Go check out Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs, folks. There's so much content on there. Just brace yourselves for it.
You can drop that link in there, Scrapbook, so people can go check you out. Certainly, Scrapbook is going through the history of boxing right now, in the literal sense, going through, taking it all the way back and naming a ton of fighters. Some of them you will have heard of. Some of them you probably will not have heard of. Some of them have footage. Some of them don't. As a matter of fact, many of them don't. You're thinking about back in the day, because we're talking about the history of boxing going back to the 1800s, etc. Now, fortunately, we do have footage from the 1800s, which I think is a testament of just how well documented boxing was. And unfortunately, freaking war took a lot of good footage from us by virtue of them utilizing those old, I guess, nitrate films or whatever it may be, or some of the silver that was tied to the films from back then. And they just treated it like they were just pieces of scrap metal, essentially. And unfortunately, we don't have footage of a number of great fighters, one of them being Theodore Tiger Flowers. As a matter of fact, Tiger Flowers, if you look at from a standpoint, there is a database, and I know that it's I think the Library of Congress maintains it somewhere, something of that nature, and some other ones as well. But we know for a fact that there was a documentary filmed on Tiger Flowers that would have been an absolute treat to have. It would be an absolute treat to have a documentary filmed on him. I believe it was just before he died. I want to say it was filmed in probably 1925, maybe some portions of 1926, something of that nature. But there was a documentary on the great Tiger Flowers, and probably, or it may have had some Harry Greb footage in there, or some of the other fighters he went up against. I don't know the particulars in that sense, but man, such a bummer we do not have that footage. It is officially lost or destroyed.
Yeah, I'm broken up that they're also like Sam McVeigh and Sam Langford, their fight, the first fight of that 15-fight series in Paris. So it must have been filmed because they were doing talks over the footage of it and his fight against Bill Lang that year. That hurts me almost as much as Greb Walker, maybe more, because I want to see the heavyweights, you know. Hey, 86, I got to jump off.
Cool.
My phone battery's dying. I got to go in and plug this thing in, but I'll be listening, brother. Shout out to the chat.
Hey, appreciate you, bro. Hey, have a good one, and we'll be in contact indeed. We'll connect again for a show on your channel.
Yeah, man. Give me a call later. I'll be listening. Take it easy, everybody.
Sounds good. Thank you. Random Acoustic Thoughts in the mix there. So we appreciate Random dropping in. Salute to everyone still here in the chat. You are appreciated. Talking about Tiger Flowers amongst other stuff. Of course, when you get going in history, it's hard to stay on task. Maybe I have to do a better job of that myself. But man, there's just so much rich history out there in the sport of boxing. There's so much that will not be talked about, so much that will be overlooked. I mean, it's hard to cover the careers of certain fighters, especially those back in those times, in a single video, just given the sheer amount of fights they fought against the competition that they did. So trust me, folks, we'll get to some of the stuff, but history is just so enlightening. It's so enriching. Boxing Beta Fight Showcases said, I wish Jack Johnson had a rematch with Sam Langford. Hey, this would have been a good one for Random to comment on right here, but certainly it was gonna happen. But Johnson, hey, he didn't take that opportunity. The money was there. He actually had an agreement. He reneged on it, and the rest was history. So he ended up not fighting Langford, not fighting Jeanette, not fighting McVeigh. And yeah, he had a pretty mediocre, I guess you can say, title defense, thinking about the fact that there were some other heavyweights he could have fought who would have been stiffer challenges than some of them he fought. And we know Stanley Ketchel was a great middleweight, former world middleweight champion, but certainly some others. Dan points out Greb beat Slattery. Yep, Greb was in there with some of everybody. Slattery is another one, Jack Slattery. Right, Jack Slattery, right? I know I was mixing up his name one day, but yeah, Jack Slattery. Greb has a win over so many people, and he had a fight against so many people. It's pretty insane. Poland Ball says Johnson, unfortunately, always beat Langford for the same reason I think Slat beats Lewis. Styles. Good to go there, fight fan. Good to go. Appreciate you. Yeah, no doubt about it. It wasn't a guarantee that Langford would beat Jack Johnson. Of course, he'd still be giving up some size and weight, of course, even with him being a full-fledged heavyweight, probably at his best in the 170 range, in the 170s. That being said, yeah, Johnson would certainly do everything he had to do to avoid the biggest shots from Langford. So it would have been a challenge, certainly, from Langford. He was capable, but certainly is not a given, without a doubt. Not a given. Langford is much greater, and so is Lewis, but they're facing styles that have historically troubled them. Yeah, certainly. Those are some great points right there, Fight fan. Salute, Fight fan. Drop the link in the chat to Fight fan. So we appreciate your Poland Ball, a.k.a. Fight fan. He's making some content over there on his channel as well. I'm going to email you, man. You got to hit me up. Poland Ball or Fight fan, hit me up on Instagram, or I got to send you a document. I need your email. It'll help you on the YouTube journey for sure. The buy says Greb beat Slattery in a 6-rounder where Slattery won 2 rounds. But yeah, we had a lot of those shorter fights, some 6-rounders, things of that nature back then. Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, certainly known for his 6-rounders, his 6-round soirees with a number of fighters back in the day. But yeah, hey, whatever it takes. If we can get the best fighting the best, just imagine that today. I think we'd all take 6 rounds if we could get the best in each division facing each other. I'll take 6 rounds of Usyk versus Fury if it meant they would fight each other. You know what I'm saying? I'll take 6 rounds of it. I don't even need a full 12. Give me something. Heck, 4 rounds. You want to go that route? You want to take it even further back? Do 3 rounds. We're known to do 3 rounds. Let's take it back to the amateur styles as well, what they're still doing. But certainly back in the day, you would see some 3-rounders out there as well. So whatever, if we can get the best fighting the best. But that's a hard proposition these days in some cases. Not all cases, because we do have a lot of great fights between some of the greats some of the best fighters in each division. But certainly some of those more high-profile fights, yeah, it's tougher to make those at times. Canelo versus Benavidez, we should be having that, right? If we could get 6 rounds of that, I think that would do some justice. But, hey, it's crazy. Flack Boxing, Jimmy Slattery was really good. Fought some real competition. Loughran, Greb, Rosenbloom, Darcy, etc. Hey, good stuff. Yeah, Jimmy Slattery. I was saying Jack Slattery. I don't know why I keep saying Jack Slattery. But that's on my mind for some reason every time. But Jimmy Slattery, indeed. Great competition, great fighter for sure. The bias says, and it was a young Slattery. Certainly. Rodolfo, I seen the edit, Boxing Beta, good stuff. Okay, salute, Boxing Beta. I'm going to have to check that out, Boxing Beta. I will, 100%. On everything. I'm doing good, Boz. You do some fun streams. Certainly, Boz. Hergovich. Try saying that. I don't know the first one. Herva. Yeah, Hervey. I don't know. Wait, I don't know the first part of that, but I know Hergovich, of course. Philip. I don't know the Hrvoje. How's that pronounced in American terms, Boz? Or in use layman terms or a language or a form of it that I can understand in some capacity, because I don't know. Is that Hervahe? I don't know what that is right there, Bob. Let me know. I can't leave from this stream without knowing how you pronounce that first name right there. I don't know what it says, but certainly I think I'm close. Hervahe or something. Hervaye. Because you have a J in a Janovich, and you said a Janovich, so Hervaye, maybe. Dan says, Jimmy Slattery from Buffalo, my hometown. Indeed. Buffalo. New York. Hey, I told you, New York, they have some fighters without a doubt. That's where the great Jack Britton is from as well. Small town called Clinton, New York. I know that because I'm doing a little video on the background on them, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take a good while. I haven't worked on it in a good period, but you don't need me. You can go to Hardline Boxing Talk, and he'll have plenty of content on them. Check out Scrapbook Boxing. I'm sure he has plenty of content on them. But yeah, I am working something on that series, that rivalry between Ted Kid Lewis and Jack Britton, which should be pretty cool. Black-haired Irish Tramp, as a journalist called him, Dan. Good stuff. Gotta love the nickname. Flack Boxing, pulling ball, I agree. Johnson style directly counters Langford. Does not mean he always beat Langford. That's crazy. Yeah, you're right. Hey, yeah, Langford, great fighter. But yeah, doesn't mean he beats Jack Johnson, even if fighting him at a more appropriate weight advantage, or at least within the appropriate weight range. The bias says Delaney was best at 175 back then, though. He beat pretty much everyone. Berlenbach, Flowers, McTeague, Slattery, definitely some great names on there. The great Mike McTeague, Berlenbach. I know of Berlenbach, but I can't remember the full context of, or at least his career, just thinking about it. But I know of the name for sure. Someone may have to let me know. Hey, we have some others, especially in his comments, who know a lot about the sport right there. Berlenbach. Anyone know Berlenbach? I know Bod, you know him. Tell us something else about Berlenbach. He lost to Slattery but beat Loughran. Oh, yeah, Delaney, that is. Jack Delaney. Yeah, very good fighter for sure. Pulling ball. Oh, yeah, you told me you can't talk pulling ball. Anytime, buddy. Anytime. Delaney also beat Rosenbloom. Hey, proper nod right there. Defeating the great Maxie Rosenbloom, Slapsy Maxie, as they call him. Another guy with a crazy amount of fights, no footage, of course, except the movies, because he was a star in that sense as well. Real name, Ovila Delaney or Delaney. Cool. That's Jack Delaney's real name there. Good nugget there, Boz. Appreciate it. Rodolfo Rivera Jr., Canzaneri is my GOAT. I'm going to catch that BL live. Hey, necessarily can't go wrong with the great Tony Canzaneri. Very much a great fighter, without a doubt. Very much a great fighter, and certainly respectable fighter right there, who put in a lot of work at an early age. Check out that Hardline Boxing Talk series on him, and you really get to just see what this guy was doing at the age of 18, 19, even before that, of course. Man, just great stuff, without a doubt. Without a doubt. The Boz agrees. Canzaneri awesome. Dan says, yeah, Boz Slattery was a handsome dude. Looked like Jim Corbett, Black Irish. Indeed. The Pompadour. Gentleman Jim Corbett, former world heavyweight champion, without a doubt. Beagle, salute to you. Still in the mix here. Appreciate you still being here. Beagle, if you're still here. That was at 7:49. What time is it? Oh, man, I'm so behind on these comments. Oh, yeah, my bad. I thought this was about Greb. Yeah, I know. It happens for sure. Yeah, it's about flowers. So tomorrow we're doing a show on Greb. You would think that we got the days mixed up, as a matter of fact. But tomorrow the show is on Greb, and it was strategically done to lead in with Tiger Flowers because, of course, these two fought. That's who Tiger Flowers won the world middleweight championship from. Yes, this show is about Tiger Flowers, though we haven't talked about him much. Matter of fact, let me say something about Tiger Flowers. He stood 5 feet 10 inches, had a 76-inch reach. Aggregately, he weighed around 165 pounds, but, he fought above middleweight as well, so he wasn't a stranger to taking on guys who were a bit bigger. His career span from 1918 to 1927. Of course, he would have still been fighting, but he had that unfortunate situation where he died on the operating table. Some have even suggested maybe there was some suspiciousness surrounding that, but I can't substantiate or validate such. Not that it can't be, but I just haven't dug into it to really get a true sense of that whole operation piece and everything. But certainly unfortunate. But he did his thing, without a doubt. He did his thing, and he fought in over 160 fights. As mentioned, there are probably more somewhere in that mix. You never know. If you look on BoxRec, they'll have him at 119, 15, and 8. But, of course, there are no contest things of that nature that can be taken into account, as well as freaking no decisions. No decisions. If you don't know, no decisions, or certainly those fights that could have gone a multitude of ways, might have been a newspaper account of generally a newspaper account of the fight. Sometimes it was situations where there was no decision bouts. It was agreed that a decision couldn't be rendered because of state laws. Then you would have some situations, for instance, like with some of the draws that you see on records, you would have prearranged draws or situations where, hey, if you did not X fighter out, then it will be declared a draw, even if you beat them from pillar to post. But just kind of nature of things back then. So all wins and losses are not created equal. Remember that. Don't forget that. All wins and losses are not created equal. You see some shiny X number in O's, especially these days. A lot of undefeated fighters. Very shiny. That's a shiny type of record. Everyone wants to retire undefeated. Everyone wants to take the Mayweather route. They want to be 50-0 or more, in some cases less, because that's very shiny. A 0 is very shiny in the sport of boxing. But remember, all wins, all losses, and even cases where the fighter retired without a loss, they're not necessarily created equal amongst the competition. Certainly, don't let a loss fool you, or multiple at that. Yeah, Boz talking about a big deal to have a black middleweight champion back then. It was glorious as being heavyweight champion, I guess. Oh, yes, certainly. So Tiger Flowers, former world middleweight champion, as mentioned, the first black middleweight champion. And he actually won that title against Harry Greb. let me get to that. I'm on my script. There's a video on the 86 Boxing channel. You can certainly check it out. You can certainly check it out. It will give you some details. But the two of them fought August 21st, 1924. Greb came in as the world middleweight champion, and the two had a fight that we wish was on film. May have had some footage of some type. I don't know for sure, but maybe. And I told you there was a documentary of Tiger Flowers. Unfortunately, we don't have that. But we do have some pictures of Greb and Flowers, etc. Greb with a lot of fighters, Flowers with other fighters as well. But it was a high-class, rough and tumble fight. The two, of course, with their styles, we know Greb, as mentioned, punches from all angles, punches in bunches, jumping in and out, etc., etc. Flowers, he had a high output, and he was able to, do some work against Greb, and they battled back and forth. And this was a decision for Greb right here. This was decision. So this was the first fight. This was his first fight. Yeah. This was the first fight. This was the first fight. So I said 1925, right? 1925. Let me make sure I got my footing right. So yeah, that was 1925. For 1924, set him up. Yeah. 1924. They faced August 21st, 1924. Yes. So August 21st, 1924. I may have said that at the jump, but this was the first fight between the two. So Greb got the decision over Flowers, but there were some who felt that Flowers won the matchup. But certainly there can be those situations, disputes that go into account when you're dealing with fighters of this magnitude. But they fought again February 26, 1926. Harry Greb, world middleweight champion still, and it was a style clash like in the first contest. Pretty much one that would be very interesting to see. Very interesting to see, Tiger Flowers, he could have a high pace, but he could be efficient, solid defensively. But as someone mentioned, sometimes, he could get caught, especially against big punchers. And we know that there were a lot of big punching guys back in those times, and a lot of guys who they weren't knocked out, or they suffered only a couple of knockouts, maybe in illustrious careers, long careers. So you never knew. Greb is one of those guys. Yeah, it was hard to get Greb out of there. It was only a couple, I think, if that, that was able to stop Greb. And you're talking about a crazy, insane amount of fights. And we know how he went, and we know how he fought. We know the type of competition he fought. So some of the best punchers in history couldn't do it. So you do the math right there. So when Flowers and Greb fought in 1926, which would ultimately be Greb's last time fighting, Greb was blind in one eye, and as you can expect, he had to work it from the inside in spots, of course, because you don't have an eye. I can't remember. It might have been his lead eye, as a matter of fact, that left eye. It might have been his lead eye, and therefore he was still able to. Greb was still a very good fighter, even when he was past it. But that being said, it was a 15-round split decision, so that tells you Greb was game. But it was on that night that Tiger Flowers won the World Middleweight Championship. The World Middleweight Championship. And, hey, both of these guys, just big-time fighters in the history of the sport in itself. And we'll touch on it. But, of course, Flowers would hold that championship for, I don't think it was too long, as a matter of fact, but he would lose it to the toy bulldog, Mickey Walker. And I know that a lot of you will know who the toy bulldog is, but we'll talk about that for sure. We'll talk about that. Dan Henry Armstrong destroys Mayweather. Certainly, Floyd. Certainly. Yeah, Floyd is way too stagnant for Hank. Yeah, it would be crazy. Aaron Pryor versus Hank Armstrong would have been classic. Yes, very much an offensive onslaught between the two right there. Very much an offensive onslaught. High energy fight, without a doubt. I got to roll with my man Hank, though, but certainly high offensive onslaught out of respect. Flack Boxing says Hank would smother him, force him to fight off the back foot like he did to everyone. Certainly. Hank was indeed a monster, Dan. He was indeed a monster. I try not to talk about Hank. I'll be here all day. I'm dead serious. Yeah, right. The vibe. So you naturally have him beating everybody. Hey, I naturally have him beating, just about everybody right there. Boz. Well, maybe the same with Flack. He was probably one of, if not the most nuanced and complicated boxers ever, without a doubt. Check out Scrapbook Boxing when he's talking about Henry Armstrong, because he can explain that style to a high degree and the origins of Henry Armstrong's style. Scrapbook Boxing. Hey, Scrapbook Boxing. But yeah, check out Scrapbook Boxing on his channel. He'll tell you the origins of that style, which is very much indeed complicated. Flack Boxing, and he was watching the feet of opponents. He was seeing how they were moving. He was seeing all of that stuff. So don't be fooled. It was certainly a complicated style. Dan Armstrong, one of the top few of all time, but this is not said. He had a short, great prime, without a doubt. Henry Armstrong held the featherweight, welterweight, and lightweight championship at once, and should have held the middleweight championship as well. He should have. Controversial. Controversy sells. Boxing is always full of controversy, from the slightest to the major. But Fritzy beat him twice. Yeah, it might not have been all as it seems, Boz, as far as those Fritzy wins. Now, Fritzy, tough, rugged fighter, very experienced fighter, a lot of competition on the resume, but certainly, even in the case with his contest against Charlie Burley, and I'm not saying it's the case with the Armstrong, but in the contest with Charlie Burley, some questionable aspects there. But that being said, hey, Fritzy got the W. No, he doesn't beat everybody, but you need to have the style to deal with him. Certainly, you have to have the style to deal with him, without a doubt. You got to be 100% in shape, because he's not going to stop, without a doubt. Yep, short prime, but yeah, you're right there, Dan. He was on top for a minute. Had some long unbeaten runs in the midst of his career. It's also important to mention 1941 homicide Hank was not the same as 1937. It may not seem like a big difference on paper, but it was. Good point, Flack Boxing. We're going to have to do a video on Hammering Hank. I have a video on the channel that speaks to Hammering Hank's process of winning those 3 titles. And as I mentioned, which is featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight title. There's a video. Look it up. It says Henry Armstrong's record is unbreakable. And I don't think it's breakable. Not in boxing. And these were the undisputed titles. So, the alphabet belt wouldn't really count. So we need someone to hold all 4 of the major belts in each of those weight classes that Henry Armstrong had the undisputed titles in, for them to be considered on that level, at least for that record. But still have those 19 title defenses at welterweight. Bob said the Super 6 poster from 2009. Oh, so that poster. Okay, yeah, cool. Appreciate it, Bob. Yeah, that is Super 6 World Boxing Classic. I've shared the story before. I entered this contest, Showtime. I think I went by the website or whatever. And they were giving out like 100 of them. They had a prize pack that was, I think, sending people, or you're going to be able to go to the actual fights. I don't know if it was all of them or maybe one of them. And then sort of there were 100 of these posters right here. And who knows how many other ones may have been in production, but essentially I signed up. And I just so happened to win one of these 100 posters, or at least 100 that they were giving out in that contest. And got it framed. It's pretty heavy. I used to have it hanging up, but the wire broke. And if you see this picture right here behind me, this dope picture, I used to have this jersey right here, young framed, and it was hanging up behind me, and the wire broke on it. I guess it was a bit too heavy, and then they were doing some work. I live in DC. They were doing some work outside with one of those things. I don't know what it was. That was actually seemingly rocking the house a little bit. You can feel it a little bit, and freaking broke and shattered all the glass. So I haven't gotten it reframed yet. So I just put a small little picture right there that if it falls and breaks, won't be any heartbreak. But I wouldn't want that World Boxing Super Six World Boxing Classic, not the World Boxing Super Series, which is different. But I wouldn't want that to fall and break. I've had it for years. Then this poster right here, some kind of Russian movie, famous movie or something of that nature, lithograph painting. Won't put that there because I don't want that to fall and break. So until I get the right solution, I'm going to opt for that. Dope. But appreciate it, Boz. Want me to send you that poster, Boz? Let me know. Oh, Boz, come on. You don't know what I'm dead means? Come on. Get to America, son. No, it's world renowned. Yeah, that is pretty funny. Boz, come on, man. You're on it. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. was 6 in 2009. Boz, holy crap. Rodolfo, what are you doing studying boxing history? Get out of here. Real quick, Theodore Tiger Flowers. Man, I've been going an hour and 41 minutes and haven't gotten a lot of dadgum flower stuff out of there. But let me jump into this real quick. He fought Panama Joe Gans, one of the great fighting Gans. There's a video on the channel, Top 6 Fighting Joe Gans, or at least that's what it was initially called. I think now it's like these are the best of the fighting Joe Gans or something like that. Search it. And it just so happens Tiger Flowers was in the ring with 2 of the Gans that are on that list. One of them being Panama Joe Gans. Then another fighter, even more unheralded in some sense, is Allentown Joe Gans. Think Allentown, Pennsylvania. Heard of it? Not far out from Philly, as a matter of fact. You know how we were talking about Pennsylvania had some interesting fighters. But that being said, Tiger Flowers was in the ring with 2 of the fighting Gans. I'm guessing he could have been in with the Italian Joe Gans, to be honest with you. I don't recall off top, but maybe not. He was in the ring with Kid Norfolk. Don't let the name fool you. Far more than just a Virginia fighter. He's a light heavyweight, I guess you can say, was his general range, best range at least, but he would fight heavyweights and all of that stuff. I believe Norfolk knocked out, he knocked out Flowers in their contest, or I can't remember if they fought more than once, but I'm sure it's on this paper, but I know it was taking me so long to get to it. Sam Langford, of course, he was in there with Sam Langford. Jack Delaney, and that's why Boz was mentioning the great Jack Delaney. Another one Tiger Flowers fought. Harry Greb. We know about Harry Greb, of course. We talk about him all the time. Mickey Walker, who he lost the title to. The Toy Bulldog. Isn't that an interesting nickname? One of the best nicknames in the history of the sport. And man, did he fight like a toy bulldog. I wish we had that fight as well. Of Flowers versus Walker for the world middleweight championship. The toy bulldog, Maxie Rosenbloom. We were talking about Maxie Rosenbloom, another underrated fighter that doesn't often get mentioned. Pete Latzo, another fighter that Tiger Flowers was in the ring with. So if you don't know Pete Latzo, look him up. He was he welterweight or middleweight champion? I need to look that up, as a matter of fact. Pete Latzo, see what championship he had, but I'm pretty sure he had a championship. Pretty sure. Underrated fighter for sure. Yep, welterweight. He was a welterweight champion, but of course, like these guys moved up. I don't have a direct video on, or like a career video on Pete Latzo, but very, very good fighter. one of those weight movers as well. I have a short out there on him, just kind of talking a little bit about him. But that being said, Tiger Flowers was in the ring with him. So that tells you a lot right there. So he faced 6 Hall of Famers in total, Latzo being one of them. Good stuff, without a doubt. Sammy Angat. Sammy the Clutch Angat. Yeah, that's who I believe Henry Armstrong took the title from, or he may have lost to, or did he lose to Lou Ambers? I can't remember who he lost the title to. So much stuff, so much boxing history. It gets crazy. Boz Prime years. Yeah. Young Rodolfo. Yeah. You're 1 year younger than my mom, Boz. Oh, my. Old enough to be your dad there, Rodolfo. Old enough to be your dad there's the Boz. That's crazy. Flack Boxing. Alex Pereira has the scariest KO reel I have seen in my life. All combat sports combined. I've never seen someone sleep someone with such effortless power over and over. Awesome. Talking about that MMA guy. He's in the UFC now. I think he was a kickboxer at one point. Probably did some other ones as well. He knocked out the Style Bender. And then the Style Bender knocked him out. Pretty impressive. That's what we like. Fight. And he's like the scariest looking dude. Yeah, good stuff there. Is your retirement on time, Viles, or you're going to be working in your 60? Kind of serious question. That is funny. That is funny. A lot of good stuff. Let me see. What else comments in here? Dan, Buffalo, Rocky, Kansas, former world something champion. Was it welterweight? Was he welterweight champion or lightweight? Maybe even below. Former world champion for sure, Rocky, Kansas. I know he had a tough resume. Lockport Jimmy Duffy. I want to do a video on Lockport Jimmy Duffy. I have him on a list. You know, I've said that about a lot of people. I have him on a list, a lot of these historic boxers. Lockport Jimmy Duffy being one of them. And one of the cool names, Lockport, that's a location. I can't remember where it is. Well, I guess Buffalo. I mean, yeah. I guess it's tied to that or somehow, or maybe he was just from there. But I know him. I have a little short video that just kind of tells a little bit about who he fought. So if you look that up for sure, not a lot of stuff out there on guys like Rocky, Kansas, Lockport Jimmy Duffy, Frank Aaron. I guess that's where he called home. Originally I want to say Norwegian, Frank Aaron, or was it Swiss? Or he may be Swiss, actually. I think he's Swiss. One of the two, either Norwegian or Swiss born. Frank Aaron, former world lightweight champion. That's who Joe Gans, the old master, won his title from, or won the world lightweight title from. Patty Lavin. I know of Patty Lavin by name. Can't remember the details of his career or anything of that nature. Jimmy Goodrich. Know if Jimmy Goodrich was in with a lot of fighters. Did he win a world championship? I know the name. I've seen it come up in a number of videos. So I know he was in there with some tough competition. K.O. Brennan. George K.O. Brennan. Seen his name with a lot of people as well, and I know he got around. He got around without a doubt. All these guys from Buffalo right here, man. Frankie Schoen. I don't know if I know Frankie. Do I know Frankie? I don't think I know Frankie. Of course, Slattery. We talk about Jimmy Lou Scusa. Hey, Bob, you were mentioning Lou Scusa not too long ago, right? Great fighter. Jimmy Paul. I know of the name Jimmy Paul. Don't know of his career though. Joey Giambra, no, he was a tough fighter. Don't know the details of his career. That's why I say there's so many boxers in history. It's hard to pinpoint and get down to all of this stuff without a doubt. Y'all are funny out here. Slapsy Maxie. I mean, Tommy Paul, world champion, not Jimmy Buffalo, has a ton of grace. Okay, Tommy Paul. Tommy Paul. I don't know if I know Tommy Paul. Got to look him up there, Dan. Salute. Dan, you're always putting me on some stuff. Hey, we got some kind of going on. We got some undercover stuff going on in the midst of these comments right here. Hold up. I'm not telling. All getting close to an obligation. All getting close to an obligation, so miss the rest. But many thanks as always. Enjoy this histories a great deal. Beagle, salute to you, Beagle. Appreciate you being here, buddy. Appreciate you without a doubt. If you're still in here, if you're watching on replay, know that you are appreciated. Yeah, I wish I would have got to more of it, Beagle. And now I'm about to be 2 hours in, haven't dove into a ton of Tiger Flowers, unfortunately, so I'll probably have to do it again. And talk more about them. I got to talk more about them for sure. Hey, I'm so behind in these comments. Let me get to some of these. Thank you. Took you 10 minutes. Hey, Boxing Beta, I'm going to check that out without a doubt. Dan, Britain, a New Yorker for sure. Yeah, these are some New Yorkers we're talking about right here. The great Jack Britton, former world welterweight champion multiple times, actually. Nonpareil Jack Dempsey. We all know about Nonpareil. Did a video on the two Jack Dempseys, Nonpareil being one of them. I call him the original Jack Dempsey. Born John Edward Kelly, I believe it is. But that being said, Jack Dempsey, Nonpareil, unrivaled, former world middleweight champion. Tommy Ryan. Have a video out there on Nonpareil Dempsey and Tommy Ryan, as a matter of fact. Tommy Ryan, a longer one. It's like 29 minutes. Check it out. Check it out for sure. And you'll learn about the former world middleweight champion and world welterweight champion, one of the best boxers to have graced the sport. Bushy Graham. I know the name Bushy Graham. I don't know his career, but I know the name for sure there, Dan. Man, you bring them all out. Lou Ambers, of course. Lou Ambers, former world champion there. Hey, he was in the Canzoneri video. I know that BL was talking about him in the Canzoneri video. So he defeated Canzoneri and ended Canzoneri's, was it welterweight or 140-pound reign? Or maybe it was lightweight. I think it was his lightweight reign. Lou Ambers. Without a doubt, Carmen Basilio, the upstate onion farmer from Canastota, New York, home of the Hall of Fame, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. I've been there. It's pretty cool. If you get a chance, check out that Boxing Hall of Fame. If you ever get out there to it, certainly worthy of being checked out, without a doubt. And it's a sight to see. Very historic stuff. One thing I can tell you that certainly stood out was they always do these fist castings, right? If you see the fist casting of Primo Carnera, this was a huge guy. I don't know if just the film or whatever does it justice. You can tell he's big there, but man, when you see his fist, the casting of it in there alongside the likes of Joe Louis, etc., it's a wonder how this guy. Whew. Hey, but you know what? Technical, top caliber, the best of the best. They could get him out of there. But that being said, huge fist. Might be the biggest one there in the hall. Don't know for sure, but it's got to be in the running if it's not the biggest fish there. Primo Carnera, former world heavyweight champion. Rodolfo Rivera Jr., you should do part 2 to Mysterious Boxing Deaths. Oh, yeah, you have mentioned that before, Rodolfo. I got to do that. I got to do a part 2 to the Mysterious Boxing Deaths. If you haven't seen that video, folks, check it out. Just kind of taps into a little bit of it. I think it has the little animated voice or whatever. I'm going to do a part 2, Rodolfo. There it is. You've made me do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start working that, as a matter of fact. I'm doing it for you, Rodolfo, without a doubt. Beta. Yeah. I like the stone walls behind you, 86. It's unique. Salute to you. I appreciate it. This is my office right here. At some point in history, this used to be the outside of the home, but It was built in 1939. 1939, so it goes way back without a doubt, as you can imagine. But I like the aesthetic of it for sure. I want to do some things. I'm transforming this office. I have a bunch of stuff. Matter of fact, a bunch of lights and things of that nature. I just need to get them up. I'm going to get recessed lighting. The lighting's going to be great in here once I finally make that happen, as a matter of fact. But I want to keep this thing going for sure. Talking boxing history every night. Dan, only reason I said Greb beat Slattery was because Pulling Ball said Slattery would kill Greb. Then he deleted it. Yeah, come on, fight fan. Yeah, I don't know about that. Greb, man, he was a monster without a doubt. Greb seen pretty much every style. Yeah, nobody kills Greb without a doubt. Nobody. You hear of Tish Marsden. Tish Marsden. Doesn't ring a bell there, Boxing Beta. Tish Marsden. No, I don't know of Tish Marsden. Let me look that person up. Well, yeah, he was a boxer, huh? 1911, 1980. English professional boxer who fought between 27 and 46. Flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, and lightweight. Holy crap. He had 372 fights, apparently. Second highest by any boxer, only battled by, Lynn Whitwar, of course. Oh, they died on the same day in 1980. I guess it was meant to be. But hey, very experienced fighter right there. I know about him now. Salute to you, Boxing Beta, putting me on game. Yeah, buddy of Lynn Whitwar. We were talking about Whitwar. Yeah, I don't know a ton about Whitwar's career just in general, but certainly I know about, him being the aftermost fighting fighter, at least as far as what's documented in history and what we have recorded, which is pretty crazy. 400 plus, nearly 500 fights. So the great Lynn Whitwar. And I know I've mentioned before he has some footage out there as well. I don't know how much, but I know I've seen at least some. He was Lynn Whitwar's buddy. Yeah, that's pretty crazy right there. So you're talking 1 and 2 as far as recorded fights. Yeah, that's pretty crazy right there. And they were buddies. Good stuff. Sam Langford versus Jack Johnson would have happened. Oh, yeah, it would have been cool if they fought as heavyweights. Surely it would have been pretty cool if they would have fought as heavyweights. And, of course, they did fight. And, at the time, Sam Langford was 160 pounds or maybe even less than that, actually. I know he was 160 against McVeigh, who came in at 201. So just think about the weight difference that the great Sam Langford was giving up in those contests. That was if Jack never went to jail. Yeah, maybe. I know he was looking to fight there at the end. At one point, when he came to Cuba, he said that he would give Sam McVeigh a shot after he beat Jess Willard. Of course, we know what happened. Whether he would have given him that shot, I don't know. But certainly should have happened beforehand with the title on the line. Yeah. Boxing bet a great point. Sam Langford, probably weight class didn't matter. Certainly it did not matter for him. He was one who moved up the weights, up and down, as a matter of fact. Or at least started from down at lightweight and fought up to heavyweight. And he was knocking guys out, carried that power with him, which few have been able to do. That's one of the grand separators between Langford and some of the other weight movers. Not all of them have been able to carry pop. Some of them just didn't have pop. But Langford, he was able to carry his pop up the weights. And he has knockout wins to boot. Terry Wills, that's just one example. Many more. Check out the Harry Wills video that we have on the channel. You'll find out a lot. Those two fought a great deal of times. Check out the Sam McVeigh video we have. Of course, they fought multiple times as far as Langford versus those guys. It's worthwhile. It's definitely worthy of checking out. Boxing Beta says he did once agree to fight Langford newspaper. Okay, good to go. Yeah. I know he had a deal in London. They had the money put up. There was an agreement in place, etc. And that's just one example I'm thinking of for sure. And Jack Johnson skipped out on it, didn't do it. He was like, "Hey, I'll take whatever I can get." So pretty insane. But yeah, so folks, I know we're so deep in here. We're talking about Tiger Flowers, having gotten a lot of Tiger Flowers stuff out of there, but do know that he was a great fighter. He was a great fighter, without a doubt. World middleweight champion, fought some of the best, beat some of the best, lost to some of the best, drew at some of the best. But check out our video on him. As I mentioned, look it up. Look it up without a doubt. Give a little animation in there because there, isn't any fight footage of Tiger Flowers, unfortunately, but certainly the imagination works wonders. Boxing Beta says, Henry Armstrong fought Sugar Ray Robinson. Yes, of course, past it. But hey, when you have fighters who are even past it or whatever, hey, that's their means for making money. So Henry Armstrong needed the money, and Sugar Ray Robinson agreed to fight him. He was an idol of Sugar Ray Robinson's. And yeah, sometimes some boxers have to stay in there longer and fight past it. But certainly it would have been a very much interesting fight in their primes. But unfortunately, yeah, that version of Henry was not at his best. Dan, man of the hour, Tiger Flowers had an awesome build, muscles tall. His record is awesome, had many great wins, was a great man, a Christian, a very decent man, no smoking, drinking, no swearing. That is without a doubt. Yeah, apparently he used to say that to fighters, or he tell fighters they swore in front of him to apologize or tell them not to swear in front of him. His nickname was the Georgia Deacon. Very stout Christian there. He was a God-fearing man. I believe he carried the Bible with him probably pretty much everywhere. I believe that was the case. But yeah, the Georgia Deacon, don't get it wrong. So he fought for the money for the most part. He fought for the money, but in his heart, I don't know that he was one of those guys who was for the nature of the sport. When you think about it, it can be a pretty brutal, unforgiving sport. But he did it for the money. He was good at it. There's a book out there on him. I haven't read it, but there's an interview. Shout out to EJ Boxing Live. He did an interview with the writer of it, and it's called "A Rose That Grew from Concrete." Or no. I think that's Tupac I'm thinking of right there. It's called "A Tiger Rose from Georgia." Yeah, I think that's what it is. A tiger rose from Georgia. Not a rose that grew from concrete. But if you know about that, you know what I'm talking about. But certainly Tiger Flowers, that's worth checking out. I mean, there's some content out there on them outside of this channel. There are a number of other channels that have done some things on them. Hardline Boxing Talk, Scrapbook Boxing, baby. He's done some stuff on them. You can get a lot of detail from him on some more intricate accounts. But I do have a video out there on them. I need to do something else or something updated. I want to dive even deeper with some of the more recent videos that I've done on some of these great boxers. So we'll see how that goes for sure. We will see how that goes. But certainly look up the man, Tiger Flowers. I'll have to do something again for sure. I didn't do him his proper justice. But let's be honest, on pretty much all of these, it's hard to stick with the one discussion because these guys back then, they fought so many great fighters that you can go on a tangent down a rabbit hole talking about so many different fighters. But that's fun too. If you want to learn about the history in general, man, we're talking about it here. The man matters too, not just fighting, without a doubt. As a matter of fact, quick thing, there was a relative on this channel who commented on, I believe it was the animated Tiger Flowers video, and she was a relative of Tiger Flowers, and then I think it was a great grandchild child of Tiger Flowers, or it might have been a child of Tiger Flowers, one of the two, who has now passed away, of course, but there's a video on her channel of her, and she's talking things of that nature. And this person mentioned that they still have the belts, or at least, I don't know if all, or I guess it was one belt maybe, but they still have the belts that he would have been tied to at that particular time. So I think it's multiple belts in plural. I was going to try and get some pictures. She said she had pictures, but then she didn't contact me again. She didn't comment again. But I think she was the real deal looking at her profile. From what I could tell, the real deal, baby. But yeah, just a little small nugget. As I mentioned, folks, check out the comments. You find some gems there. You find some nuggets there, as in gold. I love gold. Joe Walcott. Not Barbados Joe. He would have came a good deal beforehand. So not Barbados Joe Walcott. No, he did not bear boxing beta. Let me see. I don't think he did anything with let me see, did he do anything with Arnold Raymond Cream? Yeah, no, because yeah. But no, he didn't fight Barbados Joe Walcott, former world welterweight champion. Of course, had they been around fighting in the same era or time frames, I'm sure they would have fought, because they were the type that would fight anyone without a doubt. But great fighter right there in history, Barbados Joe Walcott. And the Arnold Raven Cream Jersey Joe Walcott aptly named himself after the great Barbados Joe. There's an interview of him out there, footage or whatever. We get to see him speak, talking about his time, talking about his fight with George Kid Levine, former world something champion. I believe he's a world champion. George Kid Levine. I think he was a world champion. But yeah. Dan, this is why we honor the greats. Indeed, Dan. Always great to show him some love. Give him some kudos. Salute. You need to do a documentary on old boxers like Joseph. Oh, Vincent. Oh, yeah, Joseph Vincent. Yeah, I've seen his stuff. You know, he does more of the highlight video. It's not all highlight videos. You're right. It's a documentary, but it's guys who have footage. Now, a lot of the guys that I do, they don't have footage. I try to focus on that era that is tied to many guys who don't have footage, which that's sort of my niche. They say on YouTube, find your niche or niche, depending on who you're talking to. But that being said, you know, I had started out trying to do some little highlight videos. At least that was the concept that I thought I was going to go with. And that takes a good deal of time, too. A lot of work to put that stuff together. Then you run into copyright claims and things of that nature as well. So certainly try to avoid that. And, you know, a lot of the fighters, I really like to be honest with you, the 1800s and early 1900s. That's what I prefer to kind of focus on just for my own general interest. There's a lot of intrigue surrounding that, because a lot of those guys, yeah, we don't have footage on them. Some of them, we don't even have pictures of them. It's pretty cool when you can dig through and find pictures of someone. And I like the mystique of such. I like the mystique of guys like Mysterious Billy Smith, former world welterweight champion. A guy with a crazy amount of losses, but when you dig through the layers of him, he was a hothead. You could say a job or a head case. Most disqualifications in history, at least as I understand it, with 11, and no footage of them. We have some pictures. Now I have his facial features moving through the use of AI, of course, and that gives you like a glimpse into the man, at least somewhat. But I find stories like that very interesting, doing stories on guys like that, Canadian fighter. Canada was very integral to the boxing history, especially in that late 1800s, early 1900s. Hey, we still have had many great Canadians over the years, but I'm just thinking about that time in particular, the time I love, the time of Tommy Ryan, the time of fighters like Nonpareil, Jack Dempsey, and just digging into his story and finding out about some other boxers who don't get any accolades or much mention, like George LaBlanche, Canadian fighter, first man to knock out Nonpareil Jack Dempsey, handing him his first loss. Though it was done with an illegal backhand, that being said, it was pretty much as close to anything goes at times back then. So I like guys like that without a doubt. And I like that era. I like that history. Guys like Denver Ed Martin, who I'm going to do a video on. That might be one of the next ones. Rodolfo, I had it set in my mind. I'm going to do a Denver Ed Martin video. So the mysterious boxing deaths, that's in a close second without a doubt. But I'm certainly doing a Denver Ed Martin video, Rodolfo. That's what I'm going to key in on. I have a number of videos that I already have started that are in the making. And I mean from a script perspective, because I have to get to the script before I get to the piecing together the photos, animations, deep fakes, etc. But these days, the script in itself takes a good deal because there's so much you don't want to leave out. Of course, you can't get everything. I do a better job of accounting for as much as I can in a viewable format with some of the latest videos that I've done compared to some of the earlier ones, which is why I want to do a number of the earlier ones over in some capacity. I got to think about how I want to go about that. But guys like Tiger Flowers, Harry Greb, Jim Corbett, I've done a couple variations of Jack Dempsey videos. The biggest one, or the what I love most, is one that hasn't been seen as much as one of the earlier ones that I did, but it goes into detail on Jack Dempsey winning that $1 million, or not winning that $1 million, but the $1 million gate with George Carpentier. I have to do a follow-up that speaks to that $2 million gate in a similar capacity with Gene Tunney. But in that Dempsey video, and I don't even know what I have it titled as right now, but if you look up Jack Dempsey $1 million or something of that nature, I'm sure it'll pop up. But it goes into detail on that $1 million gate fight with George Carpentier. Of course, the stories we know with him being considered a draft dodger, Carpentier being a war hero and the Orchid Man from France, etc., etc. But it also dives into some other details, like this was the big break for RCA, the electronics company, or I guess they're an electronics company or telecommunications style company. I guess that's what they really are. But we know them. They've made some electronics that we've had over the years, like VCRs, which some people still have. I know my mom still has. Or does she have a DVD? A combo DVD and VCR, but it's not. It may not be RCA, but I'll have to double check to see if it's RCA. But that being said, RCA, you've seen the company. I think their logo, the letters in red, RCA, but they played a critical role in that Dempsey Carpentier fight becoming what it was, because it was the first broadcast or first world heavyweight title fight broadcast over radio. It might have been the first fight, but I don't quote me on that. I can't remember right now, but certainly the first world heavyweight title fight broadcast over radio. And RCA wasn't the first company approached, but it gets into details on some of the men behind that and how that came about. But it was broadcast in a 250-mile radius, and that changed boxing. That made Dempsey a household name. already there in some sense, but an even bigger name. And then it speaks to the rise in sales of radio, and then the rest was history, of course. And then fights being covered on the radio became a common thing. But RCA, that company, was the company that took a chance, and it paid off for them dearly. And they became a huge corporation because of such. And that's because of the Dempsey Carpentier fight. So that video is out there. So great stuff. I love those times. I love covering those times, without a doubt. I'm surprised a relative of Tiger Flowers ain't here. Without a doubt, Rodolfo, without, that would be cool. His daughter just died 100 years old. So that must be who it was, because she had a video of that person. I said grandchild or child. So, yeah, I guess daughter, Dan. Salute to your dad. Hey, Dan the man. He knows this stuff right there. But, yeah, she has a video of him on her thing, 2021, a couple months short of 100. Yeah, that's pretty dang crazy right there. Pretty dang crazy. So, yeah, I think it's under that Tiger Flowers animated video that I did, which doesn't go into a ton of detail, and it uses that computer voice or one of those AI voices, though it's better than some of those original AI voices that we saw cropping up on videos. Some of them still cropping up on videos that sound completely horrible. It's a little bit better than that. Skywalker Boxing, salute to you, Skywalker. What's up, buddy? Hey, everyone give Skywalker Boxing a follow. Great content he provides on his channel, without a doubt. Some great interviews and all that stuff. Got to get you all here, Skywalker, without a doubt, buddy. Man, I was on there last night. He was covering the Franco versus Ioka fight, at least part 1. Part 2, we know, or that may have happened. Did that happen today? Or I know it's some weird time because it was happening in Japan, and those usually come on very early in the morning. But appreciate you, Skywalker Boxing. Give him a shout out. Give him a follow. Flowers' daughter, born 1921. Crazy. So, yeah, she probably didn't. So she was born 1921. He died in 1927. So, yeah, she didn't get a chance to really get to know him. So, crazy. But, yeah, lived to be 100 years old. Crazy. That's pretty insane. Man, I want to see some of those pictures. I'm going to comment on that. I'm going to find that post and comment on it just to see, hey, but if she doesn't want to show them, hey, she doesn't have to show them. Well, some of those belts or belt, whichever one. Just to honor them so they remember. Boxing Beta, yes, without a doubt. My classmates don't know old boxers. They only know Mike Tyson, George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier. Yeah. Hey, that's a lot of people right there. A lot of people don't know old boxers, especially if from a conversational standpoint. There's so many people that don't know old boxing in general. You have to really have liking for it, or a passion for it in some sense, or an interest to a certain degree. And for some, old boxers are Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman. For some people, yeah, that's about as far back as they go. You really have to want to be in the know to go back to the earlier days, early 1900s. And before that, for sure, you have to kind of want to be in that know. But for some, yeah, around Ali, some go back to Joe Louis in that time frame. Great era right there. So a lot of great boxers over the years. But, yeah, you certainly have those that are more so that you'll run across. And I think it's because boxing in general has a tight-knit group of boxing fans and all of that stuff. And by virtue of such, you'll find that if you ask the average person, they won't know about a number of the boxers today, even some of those that we would say, hey, are the better boxers in the sport right now. And it's similar to how some of them know history as well. Of course, they'll know those that were able to cross that threshold and become a household name, but you don't often run across, if you're just randomly walking down the street, yeah, you're probably not going to converse with a person or run into a person who knows a ton about boxing outside of some of the big names. That's why we enjoy the YouTubes and other platforms and being able to connect with like-minded boxing fans, without a doubt. Boxing Beta, if everyone knows these old boxers you talk about, there will be more pictures, newspapers, and footage, without a doubt. And I can imagine that there's probably footage out there somewhere in someone's basement, or maybe even not even basements, or at some universities, or in some kind of film archival type spots that is sort of unidentified as far as the boxers that are in the footage, which may very well be the case. So there may be some boxers out there with some footage that we haven't seen. It tends to pop up here and there, but very interesting, without a doubt. I like that era. It was good and fun, without a doubt. Boxing Beta, Rodolfo Denver Ed Martin. Yeah, definitely looking to do Denver Ed Martin, baby. Denver Ed Martin, without a doubt, looking to do a video on him. So I'm calling it here. That's what I'm gonna focus on next. And I'll do that other one video, Rodolfo. I got you without a doubt. But Denver Ed, it was running through my mind tomorrow because I wanted to do it a minute ago. And there used to be I know that there was footage of Denver Ed Martin versus Gus Rulin, or Gus Rulin. Depends on how you pronounce it, I'd imagine. But there was footage of that fight at some point. I don't think it's out there now. It'd be damn cool if it was. And therefore, of course, like a lot of the boxers, we don't have footage of that I know of. Unless someone knows, Dan, maybe you know, but I don't think there's footage of Denver Ed Martin. There is footage of Gus Rulin. You can see him battling James J. Jeffries out there. If you don't know Gus Rulin, or if you've heard the name and you wondered if there's footage of him, there is some out there, or at least that one I know for sure. I don't know if there's other, or at least other surviving footage, but there is footage of him taking on the great James J. Jeffries. So salute to that, without a doubt. Dan says, apparently led a life of crime after boxing. Mysterious Billy Smith. I think him and Kid Levine. Kid Levine was a great champion. Lightweight, I think, maybe welterweight. Okay, good to go. Yeah, because Barbados Joe fought at welterweight, but he did fight below that too. So Levine, yeah, he would have been one of those. I'm thinking lightweight. I'm thinking there's lightweight though there, Dan, for definitely. Walcott lost welterweight title to Levine. Okay, that's what it is. Hey, so welterweight, good stuff there, Dan. I have a video out there on the great Barbados Joe Walcott. That was one of the earlier ones I did. And there's an interview out there of Barbados Joe Walcott. He's talking about that fight with Levine. Levine and Mysterious Billy fought a lot. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mysterious Billy Smith. Check him out if you haven't. Released a video. There's not a lot of video out there on him in terms of people talking about him. But that being said, 86 Boxing has one. You can check out if you want to. Dan's brain needs to be studied. Without a doubt. Dan, donate your brain to 86 Boxing, all right? Rodolfo Rivera Jr., I missed Sati videos 86. I know, hey, I got on one of those channels, channel audits from vidIQ. Some of you may have heard it. They do video or do YouTube stuff. Now, of course, nobody on there knows about boxing because they basically review your channel for couple of minutes. I don't know if I got a couple of minutes. Maybe I got a minute. But basically, I was doing those videos, Rodolfo, and I have a lot of them that are out there, and they were saying, when I come to it, I see it, and I think it's cool, but I want more, and then I started doing them accompanied with some information surrounding those fighters while I would have the photo animation, the deep fake animation. And then I was like, you know what? That's more, but I feel they want even more. So I said, you know what? I'm going to stop doing those and just focus on just doing videos more in depth. Now, of course, that has resulted in lesser amounts of videos. So if you look at what I was doing, and it was probably unsustainable, of course. I was trying to have a video release every day, sort of like boxing history every night. We'll see if this is sustainable. We'll see. But I was trying to have a video release every day. I remember early on I had them planned out, and I would make sure that there was a video every day. But eventually, demand was higher than what I could produce. And yeah, couldn't produce one every day, but I've been doing this boxing history every night. But the difference is coming here and talking about it that's a little easier for me to be able to construct as opposed to trying to do those animated videos that go into the detail because I have to write the script and then research, and I had to go through the newspaper accounts and articles, varying things, get the pictures, all that stuff, do the animation. Of course, I do it all myself, so it takes a good deal. That Tommy Ryan video, which is one of the last ones I did, besides that John L. Sullivan, it was the last one. Man, it took a minute. That Tommy Ryan, it was just like, oh my goodness. And at the lo and behold, because I was trying to cut off points where I would continue adding stuff, so I had to skip over certain fights. It ended up being my longest video at 29 minutes. And when I was going through the script, they're developing it. I didn't think it would be, but it ended up being the case. The longest freaking video. And I was like, man, once you go there, once you start to get in those ranges, it's hard to go back. So if I'm doing a career video, so Denver Ed Martin, it might not be as long because he didn't have as many fights as Tommy Ryan. But that being said, he had some top level competition that he faced. That's always the challenge. That's why I haven't done a video on Sam Langford, for instance, like an animated video, because I just feel like at this point it would be super long. I plan on doing one at some point, but it would be long. It would be pretty darn long, without a doubt. But it's gonna come. But I got you, Rodolfo. I'm gonna have to figure out another way. Skywalker Boxing, nice battle. Let me know. We will do a collab in the future, without a doubt. Skywalker. I'm gonna be talking to my guy Demond here on Saturday. Skywalker, I know you interviewed him already. We've been on your channel. Holla at me, without a doubt. Holla at me. Dark Man, salute to you, Dark Man in the mix here. Says hello everyone here. Salutes. What a haircut, 86. Also, someone binged to the table the lost documentary of Tiger Flower. Oh yeah, someone brought to the table the lost. Man, I wish you could find it. So you see Harry Greb fighting in Tiger. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, we were mentioning that earlier, Dark Man. Yeah, we know that there was freaking footage. I think it's like officially lost. Like it's not out there, period. This is one of those that they have documented in some capacity in, I don't know if it's the Library of Congress or what, but they have a list of films that they know were lost. They say like, hey, these films were lost. They no longer exist. And unfortunately, this Tiger Flowers footage is one of those. Now could some copy somehow pop up? Man, hope. They say never lose hope. I like to stay optimistic. I see the glass as half empty. Half full. My girlfriend sees it as half empty. Guess that's why it works out. But that being said, I see it as half full. So maybe, Dark Man, even if there's a slight chance, like in the movie Dumb and Dumber, when Jim Carrey was talking to the lady, it was like, what are the chances of them getting together? Like, what, like 1 in 100 or something like that? And it's just like 1 in a million or something like that. So you're telling me that there's a chance. That's one of my favorite movies right there. So even if it's 1 in a billion, Dark Man, I'm gonna hold out hope that maybe there was a copy of that. We freaking have. It's a shame because I did the Tom Sharkey thing yesterday, and I was showing that little footage that we do have of Tom Sharkey. I believe it's the only footage of him fighting James J. Jeffries of their second matchup. And it was apparently, or at least from what I heard in like documentaries, and then I've seen it repeated online as well, that apparently it was shot in a cigar box hidden in or cameras hidden in a cigar box. And this was like 1899. So I don't even know how that works. I would think it would be clunky or something like that. But then again, maybe cigar boxes were large. I think of them as not being very big, but maybe that technology transformation made it to where it was small. So I don't know. But they had footage of that, but we don't have footage of Greb or anyone. Well, we do have highlight or newsreel of Greb. But think about the fighters we don't have, and we have footage shot in a cigar box in 1899, which is insane. but it's pretty darn cool to have. Rodolfo Bagel Jr., this is a good question. What is the oldest sport in the world with the most recorded history? Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I think certainly fighting type sports go way back. Flack Boxing says, I believe it's boxing. I know they did all types of sports in ancient Greece around 500 BC. Certainly. I know they always had some form of fighting in some sense, though a more barbaric version, I guess you can say. But some, I guess, would argue that boxing is barbaric too. But yeah, there's been some forms of fighting going way back. We can at least see that even on Egyptians, as far as some of their paintings and communications that they have in some areas. So pretty crazy. From a website, it says track and field is the oldest, followed by wrestling, archery, swimming, and then boxing. Interesting. Oh, swimming's a sport? Interesting. Didn't know that was a sport. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that's cool. Swimmers, they go at it. Salute to Michael Phelps. Salute to Katie Ledecky. Lives in Maryland, apparently, or at least from there. I don't know where she lives now. Track and field. Love it. Of course, one of the most popular ones is that 100 race, and then a 4x4 relay. Several others as well, but certainly that's big time. But boxing is for sure the most mainstream sport of all of them, so I would consider boxing the sport with the most significant history. Yes, and we have a great deal of it documented. A ton of it is documented, Rodolfo, so I lean that side as well. Dan, I tried to look up quick. I can't find out that quick, but I think you're right. Walcott fought at lightweight, I think. Yeah, they did. I know he did fight below welterweight for sure. Whether he came in at 135 for a fight, I don't know certainly, but I know he did fight below welterweight, and I know he did fight in the 130s. It's just a matter of whether or not it was at 135. But then again, back then, you know, it could vary as far as like when Tommy Ryan fought Danny Needham or whatever. I think they were under one. Oh, no, that was welterweight, as a matter of fact. But I'm thinking Nonpareil Jack Dempsey, he's won when he fought, and he won the world middleweight title. He was under 160 pounds. It was like he was like 150. Matter of fact, for his career, he was generally more in the 150-pound range and less. Fought at welterweight, or what would be around the welterweight limit in a lot of fights. So that could certainly vary back then as far as how that stuff went down, without a doubt. You should have Sadie in the background of these lives. without a doubt, Rodolfo. I'll see what's up. Your Tommy Ryan video was awesome, just awesome. Hey, appreciate you, Dan. Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, appreciate the fact that you enjoyed it. That the Mind Live gonna be fire. Indeed, Rodolfo. Indeed. Dark Man, no, damn. Yeah, I know, Dark Man. It's such a shame. It's such a freaking shame. They say it's officially lost, and they're tracking it. That Tiger Flowers video, again, they say it's officially lost, or at least it's being tracked on a list of Hollywood films that included, or at least I say Hollywood, but I guess films or motion pictures that have been officially lost, as in, I guess they can't be located or they were destroyed or something like that. And Tiger Flowers is one of those that is listed. It's so freaking unfortunate. You just broke Dark Man's heart, 86. Oh, yeah. Didn't mean to do so. Dark Man, funny there, Rodolfo. If it wasn't for Walcott's welterweight bout, it wasn't for Walcott's welterweight bout, but then he moved up to welterweight. That's where Kid and Mystery had. Oh, yeah, Mysterious Billy had some wars. Okay, good to go. We should try to search it, Dark Man. I would try to put it on the Lost Media page and try to make Lost Media YouTubers talk about it. Do it, Dark Man. Do it. Never give up hope. Hopefully we get that out of there, Dark Man. I'm already seeing the story of my heart in pieces. Like a Marciano. But it's funny. Hey, I feel the same way, Dark Man. I got to be honest with you. It's so annoying. It's so heartbreaking knowing that we had a documentary filmed on the man. And of course, that would be one of the ones that they couldn't keep up with, or destroyed, or thrown out, or whatever the heck happened to it. Disassembled for freaking steel or iron or whatever the heck they were made of, some kind of metal. Silver, that's what it is. I mentioned that. Yeah, silver. This is a symbol for the silver concentrate, or silver concentrate. Maybe it's a mixture or something of that nature. They had to do something. I don't know what they did, but yeah, something to do with silver being tied to them in some capacity. And why would they do that? Why would they do that? It was professionally filmed, Sharky, but film got ruined, so Cigar Box survived. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. There was another fight that was going to be filmed of Jeffries. I don't know if it was that or what, where I think it was Jeffries, where the light blew out. It got so hot. It might have been that one, but that the light blew out, they say, and therefore we don't have it. Dark man. Hey, there's still hope, Dark man. Rodolfo, you're funny. Life is pretty odd. A professional film gets lost, but a film recorded from a cigar box makes it. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how that works. Oh yeah, appreciate it, Dark man. Yeah, it was good doing the Tommy Ryan video. I learned so much about him that I didn't know. There were certainly a number of things that I didn't know going into the making of that video. I knew he was considered a great fighter, but I hadn't really dove into his resume from an overall perspective. But certainly being able to do that, it was very much revealing. One of the great fighters in the history of the sport, without a doubt. A man who would translate stylistically to any era. We don't need footage of him. We have some footage of him as he was older. We have a number of pictures. We don't need footage. We just know that his style will translate. Former world middleweight and welterweight champion, in with some of the best in history. Rodolfo, imagine if someone was in possession of a Harry Greb film, but he ended up recording over it. Oh, we don't want to think about that now, Rodolfo. And that would be plain blasphemy right there. Plain blasphemy. I can't see that happening. No one can be that dense, Rodolfo. Come on now. You can't be that dense. Dan, that's exactly. Light messed up. Yeah, good to go, Dan. Oh, yeah. That's why it's only that cigar footage or whatever that footage is. So, yeah, you're right there, Dan. Good stuff. We would have had the entire fight, but you can see Tom Sharkey, the fighting sailor, was a very scrappy fighter, and he packed a punch. Dan says Tommy Ryan is all time, without a doubt. Tommy Ryan. If you don't know, check him out. We have a video out there. Check it out, 86 channel. So is Kid McCoy, Charles Kid McCoy, one of the most infamous boxers in history. Had a very solid career, former world middleweight champion, fought some of the best, an infamous boxer, without a doubt. He was arrested for the murder of his wife. I think he ended up getting out at some point, but apparently murdered his wife. So he's an infamous champion. Now, he's not the only one who did something like that, but Charles Kid McCoy, very interesting character, infamous guy in boxing, without a doubt. Charles Kid McCoy. I have him on a list of videos to do as well. I did a poll of Charles Kid McCoy versus someone on the channel. I think it was Stanley Ketchel, and it's hard to some polls you put out there, you know that hey, this fighter is just going to win. But it was Charles Kid McCoy didn't get too many nods or upvotes. But that being said, he was a very good fighter, underrated fighter. But there being no film and all, of course, other than him at an older age messing around with Corbett, I believe. Most people don't know. You have to kind of just look through his history and resume, dig through and know about the accounts. Otherwise, you just kind of see the name, you know the name, and you just think, no, there's no footage. So, yeah, he wouldn't stand a chance. But, hey, he was no slouch. Dark man, Tommy Ryan was so damn tough and cool and achieved a lot in the sport. I bet that as he got older, he was that cool grandpa that could knock everyone's head off with his presence. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, he was touring the country, as a matter of fact, doing shows and all that stuff. In the latter part of after his career was over, he did some training, all that stuff, and he would do some tours as well. I think tours of boxing stuff, showcasing some boxing things or something of that nature. But yeah, Tommy Ryan, as you mentioned, Dark Man, an all-time great for sure. All-time great. Dan, awesome resume. McCoy, one of the greatest possible top 10. Not kidding. Without a doubt there. Without a doubt there, Dan. Yeah, a lot of people don't know of him. Well, they know of his name. Of course, you can't forget a name like Kid McCoy, the real McCoy. But that being said, many don't know of his career, certainly. And therefore they don't necessarily know. But Dan, I know you're on it. Dan, the freaking man. Hey, I appreciate it always being able to dialogue about this stuff. So, man, thanks to everyone that attended, that was in the mix here with us, as we're talking about Tiger Flowers somewhat. We're talking about a lot of people, actually, but salute to the great Theodore Tiger Flowers, representing Georgia. Georgia. Yep, fought all the greats from middleweight to heavyweight, without a doubt. Without a doubt there, Dan. But, man, certainly appreciate the love. Appreciate everybody being here. You know we're coming back, right? Tomorrow we're going to do Harry Greb. Now, considering that Harry Greb pops up in about every conversation, I'm sure that we're not going to have a problem keeping the conversation going and steady on Harry Greb. It's hard not to, because generally he fought almost everyone. So we didn't get through everything Tiger Flowers, but we'll talk about him tomorrow in the Harry Greb video for sure. And I'm pretty sure Harry Greb, I wanted to do Harry Greb on Friday because I just feel like that's one that could go for a long period of time. We've done 3 hours. Now, I say to myself, I don't want it to top that, but you never know. We're talking Harry Greb. It's sort of like, I think the Dempsey videos went long. Maybe the welterweights, greatest welterweights of all time. But when you talk about certain guys, I mean, the conversation just tends to linger and linger. And I know that's going to be the case with Harry Greb. So that's why I picked Friday. Because, hey, I'll have no obligation that next day. So we're going to talk the great Harry Greb tomorrow. You want to tune in. Now, I understand if you say, hey, I've already heard so much about Harry Greb already. That's true. We're going to rekindle some of the same stuff that we've already discussed, regurgitate some of that same stuff, and dive in a bit more. But, hey, Harry Greb is just one of those guys who is an enigma in the sport in a sense. Well, that's what I say about mysterious Billy Smith. Let me think from a vocabulary standpoint, enigma. Is enigma good? Is what I'm thinking. But he's certainly one of those fighters that brings about very many discussions, whether it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. You have those that love him. You have those that seemingly hate him. You have those in between. You have those that don't know of him, heard of him. We're going to dive into the great Harry Greb. Darkman says, also by looking up some Harry Greb films on Google, I found an interesting page that talked about how ESPN Classic manager will always put in the thing Ali Tyson from the. Oh, yeah. Not surprised about that, Darkman. Yeah, of course. Mike Tyson, Ali, Foreman, all of those, some of the most popular boxers in history, especially thinking about Tyson and Ali. So there's a ton of stuff out there on them. That's why I haven't done any video on Tyson or Ali. I do have a little Tyson animated video. Just did an animation on his interview with that one station where he says, if you don't like it, turn off your station, which is a funny interview. Funny. Mike Tyson was a trip. Mike Tyson was a trip. As a matter of fact, I had to show you all that. or look it up for sure. It's funny. I can't get enough of that interview. Mike Tyson was a trip. Hey, my favorite fighter in history there, Mike Tyson, Iron Mike, believe it or not. I love the history, but Iron Mike, man, my favorite for sure. I have some Tyson stuff. I have more Ali stuff than I do Tyson stuff, so maybe Ali is my favorite fighter in history in actuality. But I always say it's Mike Tyson. I guess I'll stick with that. Dark Man, that ESPN had or had Gary Greb and other all-time legend films they never shown to the world. You think so? That would be very foul of ESPN if that were the case. That would be very foul of them. Dark Man, I don't know, Dark Man. That fight film collector, and I think the guy that Tyson knew, Jim Johnson, or I don't know if it's Jim Johnson. Dan, you may know this fight film collector who had a bunch of films and stuff he used to find in the 90s, 80s, and all of that stuff. Thank you, Brother Josh, 86 fearless leader. Dan, you're funny. But I think his name was Jim Johnson or something of that nature. He was seeking out a bunch of film. And I think he was he may have been the person that found that Greb newsreel or something like that. I know he would search them out high and low. Then Steve Lott, I believe, he passed away, I believe, like a couple of years ago, maybe last year or something like that. He was, I know, a big collector. Everybody's been looking for that Greb film. The Harry Greb fanboy is going to be out in full force tomorrow. Hey, we'll see. We'll see, Rodolfo. We'll probably get some trolls that jump into the mix too, depending on the situation. Hey, come on, we welcome them. Darkman, I'm going to be leading the Greb fanboy army for sure. Without a doubt, Darkman. Hey, if you find something, don't you go trying to sell it to the highest bidder. Release that for everyone. You will be a martyr in that sense. A boxing martyr right there, Dark Man. Release it to everyone. If you gotta take it from somewhere that they have it locked up in secret or whatever, and you manage to get out of there with it, Dark Man, release it to everyone. You will not be forgotten. We will know your plight, and I'm gonna work towards getting you out of whatever situation comes about tied to it, but release it for everyone, Dark Man. I think we'll come together for sure. I think you can unite boxing with that. Rodolfo Bagel, every single live has been overrun by Greb talk. LOL. Yeah, right. I guess it's better to get that out of the way now, huh? yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, the Greb comes up in every single freaking live. You're right, Rodolfo. Has there not been a live where Greb's name didn't come up? Him or Sam Langford, both of them. I did a Sam Langford video, and there was a lot of Greb talk in that video as well. I said we're going to do a part 2 on Sam Langford. Realistically, I haven't really been able to get through any of these videos in detail on the specific fighter. Maybe the Sharky went over some stuff, but maybe it's the preparation. Like I said, some of it is stuff I do off top. Then I pull up the little script, or I pull up Cyber Boxing Zone and go through the things. So some of the fighters I know, but oftentimes I can recall some of this stuff off top, but not to the degree of Scrapbook Boxing, the Boxing Librarian. Working on it for sure, but I know more stuff about certain fighters for sure. The fights coming to fight stuff in the stream. Oh, okay. Fights in that coming to fight the street. And there's a lot of rumors. The guy who talked about ESPN putting the same fights in ESPN Collection said that ESPN didn't have any film of Greb. But another rumor said one of the historians that appeared in ESPN had a Greb film. Other rumors said the other ESPN historian had seen a Harry Greb fight in Europe. Oh. I wonder about that. Jim Jacobs. Yeah, I think you're right, Rodolfo. Jim Jacobs. I was saying Jim Johnson. But, easy to say Jim Johnson. Everyone knows a Jim Johnson, right? But Jim Jacobs, the great fight collector. I know he was scouring the earth looking for it. Teddy Atlas said he's seen film of Harry Greb. Now, I don't know what he meant by that, as if he actually saw a fight film, or if he was just, thinking like he saw so many films, because Jim Jacobs had a number of films and was like recalling that, yeah, we used to watch all of it, like with Tyson and all that stuff. And maybe he just said, Grab all of them. And maybe it was more so, hey, we have accounts of Greb and all that stuff. But he said that they saw film of him. But I don't know. If so, we need to get that. But I'm with you, Dark Man. I don't know. Yeah, you hear a bunch of different things, but that'd be interesting on the ESPN tip. I know Teddy Atlas was over there. I feel like Teddy would have let us know. Wouldn't Teddy have let us know? Maybe not. Then Jim Jacobs. Salute Dan. Scrap probably has Greb film. Huh? Yeah, right. Scrapbook. Let us get it. Come on, Scrap. Release that footage. Partner with Customado. That's how Tyson became such a great expert. Jim Jacobs. Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, good stuff, Dan. Yep, right. Yeah. He was a big fan of all the historians or all the historic boxers or just the history in general. Had his favorite fighters. People were talking about him saying Sammy Mandel, of course, Jack Dempsey. You know, he had a similar stylistic look, or not from a fashion sense, or at least what he wore, the solid trunks, then the little tapered fade. That Jack Dempsey style. He's a big fan of Jack Dempsey. Harry Greb as well, of course, because Harry Greb fought any and all comers without a doubt. Obviously, if I found something about Greb or Tigers, I'll release it and send it to you, your Facebook page for sure. Okay, Dark Man. Hey, that's why I rock with you, Dark Man. Salute to you. Gonna have to send you a swag pack, 86 boxing swag pack. That's what I like right there. You know we got you. Rodolfo got you. Hey, we're gonna be beating the drum. Hey, if you find that footage, Dark Man, hey, I would do the same thing. If I come across some of that footage, I'm releasing it. Supposedly there's been footage. Now I wouldn't want them to delete the page, but I risk it. Supposedly there's been footage that was taken down. I've heard of some videos that seemingly aren't out there anymore. YouTube took them down or something of that nature, which is a darn shame. I need to figure out more about that whole copyright thing, or not copyright, or trademark, because as I understood it, public domain after 75 years. So I thought that if it's one of those old videos, why would they take that down unless it had some type of branding or marking that made it seem as though it belonged to some company like an ESPN or something. I mean, do they own the rights to footage over 100 years old? I mean, who really owns it? It should be the public's, right? 100 years old. But then again, I don't know. It's pretty crazy, though. It is pretty crazy. How about steel build on Greb and only film? Crazy looking smile. Yes, sir. Harry Greb. That's true. I also heard that Customado had a lot of old school fight films, and apparently Greb was between those films and helped to develop Iron Mike style. It would be very interesting. Yeah, that is pretty interesting. Wait, so did Jim Jacobs have Harry Greb filmed it? I don't know, Rodolfo, if he actually had it. Darkman says it's probable. That's what I heard from 2015 Boxing World. Yeah. You know, like I said, Teddy Atlas was talking about seeing some. Maybe Tyson has said it too. But I was reading, there is a Harry Greb site out there. I don't remember what it's called in terms of, it might just be harrygreb.com or something else like that. But it's a site dedicated to Harry Greb. And I don't know if it was on there that I read it, but I was reading for sure in an article that Jim Jacobs, I think he only had that little highlight reel. I think he's the one who may have got that off of someone. And I think, or when people mentioned that Jim Jacobs had Harry Greb film, I think they're talking about that highlight reel. I can't remember as far as when he died and whether that film was produced in the aftermath or whatever. But I know that it's been said that he had film of Greb. But I wonder, I feel like it's the highlight reel that we see out there now. I don't know for certain, but I feel like it's that highlight reel or news reel, which is the one we see with him in Philadelphia, Jack O'Brien, and then doing the little workout and all that stuff, and then signing the little thing with Mickey Walker. I think that was all from the same time frame, maybe same day. Rodolfo, pretty suspicious how his footage is nowhere to be found. Probably a Langford fanboy destroyed it, so Langford will be known as the GOAT. Yeah, that would be insane. Come on, no Langford fan would do that right there, Rodolfo. No way. Tyson doesn't brag about it, but he knows every nuance of every great fighter. From a professional point of view, Tyson is an awesome historian, all about mankind, not just boxing. Yeah. Want to get him on the channel to talk some boxing history. Working on it. Well, I'm going to work on it. Whether or not it happened, I don't know. Yeah, the 86 Boxing Swag Pack. I still got the stickers. Salute to you, Rodolfo. I got some more of those. I got you, Rodolfo. I remember going to San Francisco one time and I entered a pier and it had a microscope type thing that you can look into, and it was a fight film of Jack Dempsey. Oh, that's pretty awesome. Maybe they repurposed some of those those little looking things on the piers. That's pretty dope. If it, having a Dempsey fight film in there, awesome stuff right there. Awesome stuff. Rodolfo, salute to you. Rodolfo, young historian there, knows about some of everything. Oh, something else came to mind. In a Mickey Walker video or Gene Tunney tribute vid, someone said that he maybe saw Greb fighting in a boxing documentary that he looked tough as hell. I wonder what this was right here, Dark Man. I wonder what this was. Gonna make me dig into it. God dang. So you mean to tell me that's the case? Jacob sold his collection to ESPN 35 years ago. About then died of cancer. Oh yeah. I knew he had passed away. So sold it to NBA. Rumors are some POS burned all Greb films for the silver in World War II. Damn, that'd be crazy. That's absolutely insane. But I know a lot of films in general. Boxing was one of the, I guess, more filmed sports at that particular time. And probably the most filmed sport that I think about it. A lot of other sports were in infancy in some sense. Baseball, of course, was being filmed there in, I think, the late 1800s, maybe, or early 1900s for sure, but maybe even the late 1800s. But certainly boxing probably had the most films, so I'd imagine there was probably a ton of other stuff that got destroyed. So Steve Compton, who wrote a book on Harry Greb, I know when he was doing his research, he said he found for sure that I believe it was 5 films that were done on Greb that he for sure knew of. But there were, of course, didn't know where they were. I mean, I guess they were destroyed or something like that. Craziness. Darkman, another comment said that a Harry Greb fighting video was in the platform, but YouTube got rid of it. YouTube is insane if they did that. What the hell? Come on, man. Even movies ruined forever. Yeah, crazy, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying there, Dan. Yeah, I know they have an official list of those that they say are pretty much lost and I guess gone forever. It's unfortunate. It's certainly unfortunate. But hey, we're going to continue searching. You're going to make me dig into some research here, Dark Man, just thinking about that Mickey Walker thing and whether there's a potential video out there sort of in an unmarked fashion with Greb in it. I know many have tried, many have looked, but that doesn't mean that they were successful. And they weren't. The fact that they weren't successful doesn't mean that you or I won't be. So let's do it. Anything is possible. In the Internet Archive page, I found a document that talks about how Greb drew the color line on Joe Gans, or Panama Joe Gans, got booed by the crowd and then asked for an apology. Yeah, certainly would have been Panama Joe Gans because Joe Gans fought before. I think Greb turned pro in 1913. Gans, of course, who died of tuberculosis. It was not too long after the Jack Johnson versus Tommy Burns fight, I believe. Or is it the Johnson versus... No, it's actually the Johnson versus Jeffries fight. What was that, 15? Something like that. So, yeah, I believe it might have been Panama Joe Gans. I'll have to dig into that, Dark Man. Get a little nugget and find there. I know Panama Joe for sure. Panama Joe Gans. A lot of old school horror movies from the 30s and below have been lost in the sands of time. Yep, a lot of stuff lost. The old guy fighting Greb is Philadelphia Jack O'Brien holding his own, and he's close to 60. Indeed, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. They're going 50%. Yeah. They were messing around. Yeah. Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, another great fighter. We have some footage of him out there for sure. He had a ton of fights. A lot of you guys had so many fights, but not a lot of them were filmed. We have nothing of Maxie Rosenbloom either, as I mentioned. I know, same feeling I got right there, Dark Man. Same thing I just said. Hey, how can all the film of possibly the greatest fighter to ever live have all disappeared? So freaking frustrating. Blake Gallimore, salute to you, Blake. Appreciate you being here, buddy. Wrapping things up. We're talking about Harry Greb, who we're going to be talking about tomorrow as well. Hope to see you there, Blake. But, man, that's crazy. We have Stanley Ketchel versus Billy Papke. We freaking have we were mentioning it earlier. We have freaking Tom Sharkey and James J. Jeffries. James J. Jeffries, Gus Rulin. We have freaking, it's insane. Joe Gans battling Nelson. Salute to you, Blake Gallimore. We have freaking, Peter Courtney and freaking Jim Corbett, which should have been, I've mentioned this before, that should have been John L. Sullivan in that video, but we would have had film of John L. Sullivan, or at least him in not necessarily fighting form, but I guess it's closest to what he would have been in fighting form in the 1890s. But we would have had film of him, but he turned down the opportunity to be in Thomas Edison's film because it wasn't enough money for him. Yeah, it wasn't enough money for him. But John L., I think he kept telling himself at that time that, I'm going to get back in shape. I'm going to fight such and such. But, of course, we never got to see that. But, man, we have so much footage that is out there, but only a newsreel of Harry Greb. What the hell? We have Mickey Walker footage, but, of course, we don't have the Harry Greb footage. Some good Mickey Walker footage. I like seeing the Mickey Walker in there mixing it up, even with the heavyweights, like they say. But how could the Greb film not survive? Come on, man. Got to do Jack O'Brien soon. There will be a lot of jaws dropping. He's awesome. Fought everyone. And some say he never lost, only threw a couple early. Cool. Yeah, I know you mentioned that, Dan. Definitely going to do it. Well, I have him on a list. If I had $1 for every time I said I have him on a list. But I do have him on a list. He's one of those who had a pretty massive career. He had a lot of 6-rounders, but certainly a lot of fights. And I think about the trek in going through those, of course. Dan, not from the perspective that I'm not interested. Just with fighters like that, man, it's hard to pick and choose what not to mention because he, like you said, he fought everyone. So it'll be a long one. I'm going to do it at some point for sure. It's going to be a long one, Dan, but I got you without a doubt. 30 to 35 years before Greb. Certainly. Fitzsimmons Corbett body shot. Yeah, right. And we've had some people restore that video in some capacity. We can get it high def. Shout out to Smooth Legends. That's a channel that does that. Doing something with the frame rates. And, you can see some pretty solid footage of stuff out there. There's another one. I think it's Legends of Boxing. They have a pretty good one out there of it in color. But, yeah, it's pretty insane. We have that. And it's pretty cool to see. We do have the great Bob Fitzsimmons. And, of course, James J. Corbett. Steve Compton said Walker versus Greb was recorded as well as 4 others. Cool, Blake. Yeah, good to go. Yeah, man. What the heck happened to him? It's one of boxing's biggest mysteries. I always say that the Harry Greb film would be like gold. I pass up on a gold nugget. Heck, maybe even a gold bar. Yeah, I pass up on it for Harry Greb film. I feel like that's priceless. Give me Harry Greb film. If I had a gold bar, I'd trade it for Harry Greb film. Call me crazy, but it's priceless. Fitzsimmons Corbett, 1897. What the hell? I just found a comment in Mickey Walker video saying 129 Greb signature combo. And this film is pixelated as hell. I can't see if it's truly Greb or not. Send that, Dark Man. Link that. It says, oh my God, that damn guy in the video looks like that. I know there are apparently some videos on Facebook and stuff too that I haven't dug through Facebook to look at videos, but I know they have some videos that are on the Facebook platform, for instance, but they aren't necessarily on, they may not be on YouTube, or there may be maybe some films and footage of stuff on some of those other sites as well, especially thinking about maybe some international sites and all of that stuff. I know there are a number of archive sites out there and all of that, but that is pretty interesting. But I know BL has mentioned he's seen some videos on Facebook that were not on YouTube, so I think that kind of speaks to it. Mickey Walker highlights by the Tartan Soldier. Gonna have to check that out there, Dark Man. Mickey Walker highlights by the Tartan Soldier. Tartan Soldier. Tartan Soldier, so Tartan. Oh, that's from 11 years ago. I'm gonna have to check that out. I'll let you know. I'm gonna let you know, Dark Man. I'm gonna check that out. We're talking Greb tomorrow, so if that turns out to be the case, I'm gonna see what I can do to get that piece pulled out. We're gonna play that little video. Philadelphia beat Fitzsimmons for light heavyweight championship. Stopped him. Indeed, great fighter. Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. I'm having my doubts. The guy looks pretty tall, but his face looks a lot like Greb from the inside. Okay, Dark Man. Okay, I guess that's still somewhat some hope, but of course, the percentage of hope goes down a little bit with that one. Now he would be taller, I believe, than Mickey Walker. I believe Greb was taller than Mickey Walker, or maybe they were around the same height. But certainly Greb wasn't tall. Well, I guess depending on what you consider tall. So Greb 5'8", Mickey Walker 5'7", so about an inch. If it looked like he had inches on Mickey, then certainly that would change the dynamic a bit. Certainly would change the dynamic. About as many black fighters as white, so no prejudice in Philadelphia. Cool. Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. Yeah, I'll look at yeah, I'm gonna definitely look into him. Yeah, as a matter of fact, he fought Tommy Ryan. I think you might have mentioned that. Matter of fact, Tommy Ryan, he wanted to win the middleweight championship. Tommy Ryan won, but you're right, Philadelphia Jack was a middleweight. Campaign there. Former world light heavyweight champion, but potential middleweight champion without a doubt. All right, folks, we hit the 3 hours mark, 3 hours and 7 minutes. I wasn't trying to do that necessarily, but the conversation has been so good. I could go on all night, but I know that probably wouldn't be in the best interest for sure of all of us. I'm looking out for all of us. But tomorrow we're talking Harry Greb, and we can go unlimited, baby. Unlimited. I'm going to make sure that I'm prepped and ready to go. I'm going to hydrate, get myself ready. We're going to be good. All-time great resume. Flack Boxing. Hopefully see you here tomorrow. All-time great resume in terms of level of opposition, without a doubt. Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. 2 of his first 4 fights, he fought Bobby Dobbs. Bobby Dobbs, you don't know him, he got around in the sport of boxing. Check him out, folks. Check him out. Peace 86, Dan. Peace Flack Boxing. Peace Dark Man, Dan. Flack, Dark Man. I'm gonna look at that video. We're gonna see what's up. We're gonna talk about it tomorrow for sure. You gotta come through. Blake Gallimore, everyone. Rodolfo Rivera Jr. I'm taking notes to me. Good stuff, Blake. Good stuff. Let's do it, baby. I'm gonna have to get some others on to talk about Harry Greb. Matter of fact, I'll open it up. If people want to get on and talk on, we'll talk about it because it'll be great without a doubt. So salute to you all. Salute to y'all. But hey, we're going to find out if there's some footage of Greb out there just in the shadows. I'll definitely let you know. I'm going to search. I've been down that rabbit hole before, but darn it, I'm willing to go again. So until then, peace to all my fellow boxing historians. Guy looks a lot like Greb. There's a page in it. That's funny. Trying to get Steve Compton on tomorrow. Oh, great. That would be great, Blake. Salute to you, Dan. Blake, that's what I'm talking about, buddy. For sure. Hey, you want to come on? All that stuff is going to be open up. We're going to make it happen, baby. Let's dive into Greb without a doubt. But certainly, have a good one wherever you are. It's 10 o'clock here, 10 p.m. on the East Coast. But whatever coast you're on, wherever you are, salute to you. You are appreciated. And we'll be back.